Welcome to the Free Agency Preview Podcast. It's the Pride of Detroit podcast. My name is Jeremy Macho Man Reisman, and I'm not going to do that voice the entire show. Relax. This is the joys of watching us on a live stream. You can make me do silly, dumb stuff. But anyways, my name is Jeremy Reisman. This is the PODcast Free Agency Preview edition. I'm also going to take these glasses off. All right. You can find me at Detroit Online. I'm the Detroit. You guys know who I am. Let me bring in our other guest here as we get rid of the shenanigans and talk some football here. You know him as the senior editor of Pride of Detroit. Also, the Rock God. At Ryan_POD. Ryan Matthews. How we doing, buddy?
So happy. So excited. Free agency's right around the corner. At least the tampering period is, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're both around the corner. They're only less than 24 hours apart. More than 24 hours apart. 28 hours apart. I can do math.
I just
40.
want to...
That's not the right math at all.
Nope, it's fine. But like, I
52.
think we're at the point where we want to maybe just like simulate to next off-season event. Like I'm at the point where it's like, let's go, let's move. Come on, we're ready.
And we're also kind of at the point in the like we're almost like dangerously recording this podcast on Friday afternoon, evening, because there's going to be news before we even get to the tampering period. The Lions are certainly going to re-sign some more players. Hopefully not in the middle of this podcast, but if they do, we'll talk about it. And it won't just be me and you talking about it, Ryan.
No way, Jose.
You will recognize this voice and this face if you're watching live. He filled in last time we needed a fill-in. He is one of the faces of our YouTube page, along with our good friend Miko. He's also our film analytics guy, and a whole bunch more over at PrideDetroit.com. Morgan Cannon is here at MCannon313. How's it going, bud?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for coming back, man.
Of course. Happy to be here and happy to talk some free agency. But yeah, I'm with Ryan. I'm ready to simulate too. Like, let's get it going.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. The Lions have a narrowed set of needs. They have needs, plenty of them, but narrowed compared to other years, and especially when you're talking about like starting spots, and plenty of capital to do it. And we've already heard a bunch of rumors. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're kind of going to go position by position. And really, we're going to start here with the offense. And obviously, there are fewer needs on that side of the ball. So before we get into some of the needs that they do have and maybe the players that we're hoping or think they might go after, let's talk about some positions that aren't that needy. Really quick, knock them out. You put backup quarterback on the list, Ryan, and I'm going to start there because naturally you start with the quarterback. Lions obviously have two guys under contract with Jared Goff and obviously with Hendon Hooker. We know that Teddy won't be coming back. We know that David Blau won't be coming back. So for that quarterback 3 position, are you guys just cool throwing pretty much anyone? Like, do you think the Lions need a significant investment here? I see a lot of people like, I want a steady backup. I want this veteran guy. To me, I'm like, just bring back David Blau. I know he's not good on the field, but he's a guy that they value in that building. And
Nate Sudfeld, because David Blau's.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Nate Sudfeld. Thank you.
Yeah.
And like you bring him back, it's fine. If you get to a point where you need a third string quarterback long term, you just go out and find another one when you need it. Like they're not gonna like roster, I don't know, Tyrod Taylor as your quarterback 3. He's not going to come here to be quarterback 3. I don't think.
No, I don't think Tyrod Taylor would go anywhere to be quarterback 3, but I think that maybe we got maybe a little bit spoiled with the comfort, the safety net that Teddy Bridgewater may have provided, at least for people like thinking, oh, you know what, like at least that guy's there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just throwing the season into the unknown if anything were to happen to Jared Goff for any extended period of time, where it's that's really what you're getting. Like we're gonna see some Hendon Hooker. At least we're gonna get some preseason football. Like we'll get some meaningful preseason football snaps out of Hendon Hooker, and I think that'll be very telling. And maybe Jeremy and Morgan, I kind of float this idea out to you, but maybe it might not be until then that we might see the Lions make a move at quarterback if they do feel like Hendon Hooker isn't necessarily ready to take up that QB2 mantle.
Maybe, I mean, they're going to have bodies, right, though, right? Like, there's got to be a third quarterback and probably a fourth quarterback even during training camp. But, yeah, like, I think there could be a chance where it's like, oh, Hendon's not ready during OTAs or during early training camp. You're like, let's invest a little bit more in the backup quarterback, and you can probably find a relatively okay veteran backup.
They found Teddy. They found Teddy late in the game.
True.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be that kind of situation. Like if they make that kind of move around like OTAs or like early in camp, I feel like we're going to be okay. And at that point, we'll probably have seen a little bit of Hendon Hooker too. So, but yeah, I'm at this point, if Hooker looks good, I'm ready to just roll with Hooker as the backup. I don't know about you guys. It's a third round pick too. That's the
Yeah.
thing too. It wasn't just a flyer. Like
Yeah.
that's
That
an
seems
asset
like
for Brad Holmes.
that seems like that was the plan from the get-go. It's just a matter of if he's on track, and so far so good from the Lions coaching staff. But Dan Campbell even admitted like we don't know what we have in him yet. We'll find out. So let's move on. Running back is another one we're not going to talk too much about. Lions have Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. They bring back Zonovan Knight this week. Craig Reynolds is an exclusive rights free agent, which basically means he's almost free. You have to imagine he probably comes back. I'd say there's maybe a small chance that they give him a bigger contract than an ERFA contract because he's been a significant contributor over the past 2 years. Other than that, they did give Jamar Jefferson and Jake Funk a futures deal. Anything you guys want to discuss at running back? We could talk Jason Kabinda if you want a little bit, but it seems like since they could have
fold him into this a little bit, try to fold Kabinda in there somewhere.
Yeah, but they could have given him a futures deal, and they didn't. And Jason Kabinda has gone publicly saying he wants to be back. So, reading between the lines there, kind of seems like he's not going to be back.
Yeah, it almost seems like is the fullback position a position for the Detroit Lions moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So, but I am encouraged by bringing Zonovan Knight back. I think that was a guy that even when they brought him in during the season, and I know they brought him in while Monty was out, right?
Yep.
As some insurance, and that's a guy who played really well with the Jets, and I would be interested to see how he bounces back from that shoulder injury that he suffered, and I feel very comfortable where the Lions are at when it comes to running back.
Yeah, I think Knight's a good insurance policy, and he was running well, like you said, Ryan. He ran really well with that year with the Jets, and he was looking good with the Lions, and then if I'm not mistaken, that was a pretty crazy collision at the sideline, like when he did hurt that shoulder.
Yeah.
You kind of knew, you were like, ooh, and yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to have him back. The room's looking good. Yeah.
All right, I wanna jump to tight end next because this is on our rundown of positions to talk about, and maybe we'll talk about some free agents here. But the Lions have shored up the room a little bit by bringing some of their guys back. Obviously, Sam Laporta and James Mitchell still on the rookie deals. They're back. Shane Zylstra was re-signed. And Brock Wright, they gave the restricted free agent tender, or they're going to give Brock Wright the restricted free agent tender worth $2.985 million. Let's start there. Were you guys a little bit surprised by that news? That's $3 million, a 1 year, $3 million deal for Brock Wright. Now, granted, none of it is guaranteed. So if the Lions aren't happy with him, they cut him. But I'm personally speaking, I was a little surprised to give him that kind of investment when he's been an okay blocker, but certainly not a stellar one.
No, do you kind of think you're looking at him just as like that's Jason could, like if we need a fullback, you throw Brock Wright in there?
Maybe, yeah.
That kind of can't, you know what I mean? Like doing some of those similar roles, like going in motion, and I don't know. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, they love them some Brock Wright, and they have a lot of guys under contract, right? I mean, you're talking Laporta, you're talking Wright, like you said, Zylstra, James Mitchell. Where does he fit into the equation in all of this? Because
Sure.
I think that he's a player that this coaching staff still very much likes, and they were very high on when they drafted him. I'm interested to see that position kind of shake out. However, I do feel like they could upgrade at tight end too. All that being said, it feels like you can bring somebody else in who can boost that group. And also, going back to the Kabinda talk a little bit, you can find somebody who can moonlight and do the things that Kabinda can do. Now, I think that they think they can get that out of Brock Wright, right? And they think that they can maybe even get a little bit of that out of Laporta because he
Sure.
did a little H-back stuff. And
Yeah.
I think all that being said, though, Jeremy, like I said, it feels like there's room to upgrade at tight end too.
Yeah, there is, but again, like if they're giving Brock Wright a $3 million deal, it seems to me they're okay with him, right? And,
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
so if to me, like I don't see this team fishing in free agency for a significant person in at tight end, but I don't think what they've done precludes them from drafting one, because that's the one thing that they do need, right? They do need a long-term option there. Brock Wright, obviously, if he signs the tender, that's only for 1 year. James Mitchell has 2 years left on his deal. Shane Zylstra signed a 1-year deal. So there is a future need there, and if they find someone if the guy that they really like in the draft is still there, I wouldn't say anything they've done so far in free agency precludes them from adding him.
Yeah, maybe your guy Tip Raymond.
Sure.
In the later rounds.
That's all right.
6'4", 270. That'd be nice to have going in motion and kicking ends out, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I get people are going to get mad if there is, if they do devote. But you guys know how Brad Holmes rolls, man. Like, if he likes a tight end and it's there, it's on the board, he'll do it. He doesn't care.
Did you have someone
in mind? It doesn't matter either,
Go ahead.
Jeremy. I mean, does it really matter in terms of the guy they bring in, his skill set, right? Like, I feel like they could just draft a tight end, regardless of him being more of a quote unquote blocking tight end or a, more of a, Y type kind of tight end. Like, I don't think it matters. Like, they'll get talent.
Right. And I'm sure there'll have to be some run blocking chops, right? Like, that's important to them. The run game is so huge that you have to at least be willing, right? Maybe not the most polished run blocker, but you have to be able to get your nose dirty because they're not going to. I mean, even Sam Laporta. I think Sam Laporta actually led the league in run blocking snaps last year.
That checks out. I mean, they moved on from TJ Hawkinson, right?
Right.
Like that tells you what kind of tight end they want.
Exactly.
Laporta is a better blocker than Hawkinson has ever been or will ever be. I was so impressed out the gate. Like, when you watch the film, Laporta jumps off all the time because of the receiving, but also he'll pop some people, man. Defensive ends too. I'm like, he's built.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they would turn to free agency to grab somebody like an Austin Hooper or a Mike Gesicki. Like, those guys they don't have a role here in Detroit.
No, definitely not. All right, let's move to the big one. Let's talk guard. Lions obviously need some help there. They got Frank Ragnow, not a guard technically. I'm talking interior offensive lineman. Frank Ragnow signed. Colby Sorsdal signed. Michael Neese, Matt Farniak, Natane Muti, all on futures deals. Coyote Awashika is an exclusive rights free agent, so he's likely back. I would imagine, given that how much they seem to like him, he's filled in quite a bit, and maybe not the best of backup guards, but capable. I mean, he played in the NFC Championship game, and the Lions ran the ball pretty well in that game. But let's talk about the internal guys first. Jonah Jackson, Graham Glasgow. What do you guys think about their likelihood to return? And I guess let's talk a little bit about price, because that seems to be the ultimate, tipping scale for both of these guys. So let's start with Graham. I think we all agree. Most people agree this is the highest of priorities of internal free agents, but at what price?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Depending on how many millions, right?
Yeah.
And there's part of me, and this is kind of lumped in with the Jonah talk a little bit, but like, at what cost or what premium do you pay to quote unquote like get the band back together, right? Like, the idea that, hey, it works so well, why mess it up? That I think that's more so a question with Jonah. I feel like we can all agree on that's more of a, how much is Jonah looking to get on the open market versus it seems like the Lions could get Graham back in the door, not cheap, but relatively much more inexpensive than what they would have to pay for Jonah Jackson. And I think that's why people are more inclined to bring Graham back than they are to pay out for Jonah Jackson. Do you guys get that sense too, right?
I think so, yeah. Graham's at the twilight of his career. Probably only has 1 or 2 more NFL deals left in him, and so he'll look to cash in, but it's going to be a relatively short-term deal. PFF predicts 2 years, $6.5 million per year. That's kind of the numbers we've been talking about all offseason. Seems quite reasonable. If you need to go 2 years, $15 million instead of $13 million, I don't think anyone's going to complain too much about that.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You throw in a big signing bonus, you add a void year, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't think, like, what did who got paid the other day? Was it Dotson?
Dotson got paid. We should talk about how that impacts everything. So Dotson got a $16 million a year contract, 3 years, $48 million, I believe, and those were the actual true terms when they were originally announced. So $16 million a year. That's when the ESPN rumors that came out of the combine were $16 million or more for these top end guards. So That could be the going price. I mean, it depends on what your opinion is. Dotson versus Jonah. I tend to think those are pretty two guys that are pretty level in terms of overall talent. Dotson did not have a great career with the Steelers, but last year with the Rams, he had an outstanding year. I think he actually had the second best PFF grade amongst all guards. So Jonah's never been that high, but he's been more consistent. So I don't know. Do you think Jonah's going to get that kind of deal?
If it's close, like what's your line of we can't do it anymore, Jonah? Like that's what I want to ask y'all because I've been thinking about that for a while. Like 3 years, 48, no way. Just because we know like it's just not going to work right now. The way the line's constructed, you're paying Frank, you're paying Decker, you're about to back up all the Brinks trucks for Panay, rightfully so. I can't see it, man. So like maybe 12 would be the highest I'd be willing to go, and even that's pushing it. Like the Lions had the most expensive offensive line in the league last year, and that's fine, but I don't know. What do y'all think?
Kind of seems like it's a question of how the deal is structured. I think that's a big variable to take into account with what Jonah means to the roster now and means to the roster in a couple of years, right? And I think that if you're say he gets a deal similar to Dotson, right? 3 years, 48 million. I mean, that money on the back end, like, I mean, where is this team going to be in terms of the players that they need to pay moving forward? That's almost one of the bigger things to me than it is to having Jonah in the here and now. Like there is definitely an opportunity cost there with, hey, you can bring Jonah back, you can get the band back together, you have a really good offensive line, one of the best in the NFL, or you can try to get cheaper at the position, a position where there's a ton of talent in not free agency, but in the draft, right? Like Jeremy, does it seem like if they move on from Jonah, it's a Band-Aid and a draft pick? Like, is that what brings you the most like comfort and ease?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the strategy we've been talking about all offseason with corner, and I feel like, you kind of approach it in a similar way where we got to have an answer this year before we go into the draft, and then if we find our answer in the draft long-term, great. I'm having a tough time with Jonah, man. I think a lot of things about Jonah are being overstated because of recency bias. Like, he was a very, very good player for this team for 3 years. This year was not his best. Yes, he was injured. Yes, even when he wasn't injured, he wasn't at his best. But people are acting like this guy walks around with casts all the time. I mean, this guy's missed 10 games in 4 years. That's not that bad. And so I don't know. I don't like breaking up the band. I don't like the idea of just assuming the grass is going to be greener on the other side if we cut corners, if we pinch pennies. I'm with you that 16 million doesn't seem like he hasn't had that kind of season where where I view him as worth that much, but I think I could be talked into 14. I think I could be talked into 13. I mean, the thing is, I understand people are concerned about being able to re-sign some of your guys. And yes, when, 2-3 years down the line, if you sign Jonah to a big deal and his cap hits are going to be around that 16, 17, 18 million range, how are you going to re-sign, are you going to be able to re-sign Frank to a new deal? Are you going to re-sign Decker to a new deal? Are you going to be able to re-sign some of these rookies? Your Sam Laportas, J-Mos, whatever. But you can still stagger those deals to fit so that, the early years of those new deals aren't going to be hitting when Jonah's. I just feel like there's a little more, we called it like Tetris at play, where you can frame these deals in ways that I think you can make it work with Jonah. You'll have to be in the top 10, top 5, top 3 in offensive line spending again. But is that such a big deal? And it doesn't. And the thing is, it also doesn't take guard off the table, because even if you re-sign Jonah and Graham's towards the end of his career. Maybe we don't know if Frank Ragnow is going to make another contract. Like, you can still invest in the offensive line, in this offensive line heavy draft, and be okay. So I don't know. I want them to re-sign Jonah. I'm not getting the sense that there's any movement there, unfortunately. But I don't know. I feel like Lions fans have internalized that. Like, there isn't any sign that a deal is getting done, so they're already ready to move on. And I'm not there.
It could work, like to your point, Jeremy. Like if they were to bring back Jonah, like if they extend Decker for a couple more years, his cap hit's likely going down. Like it's not going to stay at 19 million.
True.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Because it's just, he understands where he's at too. So yeah, it could happen. I don't know. Like Ryan said at the top, like it's such a deep draft. Like
yeah,
a veteran and a Jackson Powers Johnson, and let's just keep on sailing. Like that's the way I'm looking at it right now.
All right. Well, if we're moving on from Jonah, who is your free agency band-aid, or do you want them to go after? I know obviously we mentioned Dotson's off the board. Robert Hunt is still out there. Zeitler is still out there. What are you guys looking at? Ezra got re-signed.
Yeah, Zeitler played right guard last year, so that would be Graham's spot, so to speak. I mean, they could do some shuffling, but he seems like just turned 34. Happy birthday, Kevin Zeitler, if you're listening to this today. But he seems like the perfect kind of player that you could bring in for a season. Surprisingly, made his first Pro Bowl finally.
Yeah.
In his illustrious career, finally, as he made the move from the Browns to the Ravens this past season. But he seems like the perfect 1-year deal guy, maybe chasing a ring kind of thing. Because again, hey, we need to reshift and realign our perspective. Like the Lions could attract players like that, right? Like the promise of you're playing deep into January. So I think he seems like the shoe-in for veteran guy who won't cost a lot, who can get you to your next player. I do think Robert Hunt is a really interesting name. Now, I mean, he might be looking at a contract that could potentially be as big as Jonah's, but I think you might be able to make the argument that you would want to spend more on Robert Hunt than you'd want to spend on Jonah Jackson. And I'll tell you for this, I did a little bit of digging. He's one of only 2 guards in the NFL last year who finished top 10 both in pass blocking and run blocking. The only other guy was Chris Lindstrom. The problem, he missed 6 games. So like that's kind of the Jonah thing, right? It's like, but he's been relatively healthy the rest of his career. That seems like a guy that you'd be spending a little bit more, but I think that kind of runs contrary to what we're all talking about right now, right? Like it's like a Band-Aid, something that isn't going to cost you down the line. Get some player in here via the draft and the Lions can keep moving.
Yeah, and there's the whole Brad Holmes philosophy too. Like if you're going to be spending a lot of money on guard, don't you want to maybe trust the guy that you know really well over a guy that's overplaying for a different team that you don't know if he's going to fit your culture, you don't know if he's going to fit your scheme. Granted, Hunt in particularly has played in a lot of different schemes, and I don't think the offense is going to be too complicated for him or anything like that. Football's football in general, but it's always a risk. That's why free agency in general is not how you build a football team.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, PFF has Jackson's contract projected at 3 years, 10.25 average annual value. So that's not, I mean, if that's the number, let's go. But doesn't that seem low? I don't know.
It seems a little low, but yeah, PFF tends to like they skew their numbers towards like their most recent PFF grade, and Jonah was a 61.0 this year. So we'll see. Any other like veteran guard, maybe the 1 year fill in other than the guys that we've already mentioned?
Talk about getting the band back together. What about a little Laken Tomlinson?
Laken
I mean, that's a guy who's extremely durable. He's missed 1 game in his 9-year career. So, I mean, there's a veteran guy who like is the definition of professionalism. Like I remember meeting him at Taste of the Lions, and I mean that guy was just as professional as could be. So like he's about his business, and I think that he would be a really interesting name. Again, 32 years old, so you're probably getting him on one of those kind of Band-Aid type contracts. Is there anybody for you, Jeremy, that you're eyeing? I know you wrote about some guards.
Yeah, the only there's 2 other like veteran old guys, and that's the thing. Like with these offensive linemen, I tend to trust the old folks. Like if you're in your 30s and you're still in the league, that means you can ball. If you have 1 good season in your 20s, I'm a little scared. So like Joe Feliciano of the 49ers has 61 starts under his belt. Played I think 7 for the 49ers last year. 85.6 run blocking grade. Like when I'm looking at a guard, I'm looking at the run blocking grade first. Like can you continue to do what the Lions love to do. And then Greg Van Roten, too, Raiders, 34 years old, currently projected to get a 1-year, $2.75 million. So, like, if you're going bargain bin shopping, if you need this 1-year plug-in and you're too afraid to pay Jonah, something like him I think would make sense.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about Zeitler is that you want to talk about pass blocking chops versus run blocking chops. The second highest graded pass blocking guard in the NFL last year, but the 27th ranked run blocking guard. Yeah, not exactly a slouch, right? But like clearly a guy who feels much more at home, protecting the passer than getting out in space. And also that's something you might want to consider too, right, Morgan? Like a 34-year-old for a team that likes to get their guards pulling out into space and moving and trying to open up. You got to be fleet of foot.
True.
If Jahmyr Gibbs is behind you.
Exactly. You got to be able. I like John Simpson a little bit too from Baltimore. Only 26. You could get him on the. It wouldn't cost too much. I don't think. And yeah, I have visions of him pulling out in front of Lamar and Gus Edwards. So I like it.
I do not enjoy those memories, Morgan.
Well, no, me neither. But that was tough. Yeah, I hated watching that film. It was just gross.
And guess what? Both those teams only got so far.
True. While we're on the offensive line, let's talk briefly about offensive tackle. We don't need to necessarily get any names involved. Obviously, the Lions are set with Panay and Taylor at their starters, but they only have Connor Galvin signed as their depth. So Matt Nelson, unrestricted free agent. Dan Skipper, unrestricted free agent. Bring both back. Bring neither back. Bring one or the other back. How you feeling about the Lions' OT3 situation? For those not watching us, both guys just gave me a look, a discontented look.
Neither. It's just time. I think I've done both of their free agent profiles. It's just like a point where the roster's got, it's just too talented. They're too far into this the construction of this thing. So yeah, it's just time. What do y'all think?
Hey, maybe more bringing the band back together. Isn't Cornelius Lucas a free agent?
Wow.
Hey, that's a pull, bud.
Listen, we need to make room for Quandre Diggs return talk. Let's not get return Lions in every single position here.
Oh man, yeah. Here's another interesting name though, but like he's probably gonna fetch a bag, right? Is the Patriots player? I always get his last name.
Onwenu or whatever.
Yeah, I mean
he's gonna get the bag.
He is gonna get the bag, right? Like, but he's one of those ideal guys that like, if maybe say they do want to hyper invest somewhere, they could slot him at guard and then he could take over for Taylor.
True, he does have a lot of guard experience.
Yeah, so I mean, he probably best fits at guard, but he could also. I think he could play tackle. I think he would be just fine.
If I'm not mistaken, he played guard most of his Patriots career and then switched to right tackle this year. If I'm thinking of the right guy.
Yeah, and he's got 386 career snaps at left guard too, so he's played all over the place for them.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, last one before we take our break and move on to the defense here. We got to talk wide receiver. Again, Lions are in an okay spot in terms of guys that they've already had signed. Amon-Ra signed, probably going to get an extension in the next few days, maybe hours, given where things seem to be. Jameson Williams under contract for 2 more years. Khalif Raymond under contract for 2 more years. A whole bunch of guys signed to futures deals. Tom Kennedy, Maurice Alexander, Doris Fountain, Traycon Smith, Antoine Green also signed for 3 more years. But the big question here, Josh Reynolds, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let's start there. You want either of those guys back? Both those guys back?
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah.
I'd feel really comfortable if he's at least a contingency plan. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit, right? But this idea that like they could bring a guy back like Graham or like Josh. They bring that player back that doesn't preclude them from investing serious draft capital into that position at the same time, right? Like just because they bring Graham back and they get a Band-Aid at guard, that's not going to stop them from drafting a guard at 29. Same thing with Josh Reynolds. I think that there's room for everybody to be prepared for Brad Holmes to maybe take a wide receiver at 29 and not to be upset with it. So Josh Reynolds seems like a shoe-in. It also seems like, you made the trade to bring Donovan Peoples-Jones in, Morgan. So why not bring him back, especially if the contract totally makes sense. But the other name too is Antoine. How does Antoine Green figure into things? Late round pick. They clearly like him, but is he a guy who's just really still way too far away that you can, count on him for anything this upcoming season?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with Green as like wide receiver 5 or 6, and then if Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones are 4 and 5 on your depth chart, you're doing pretty well. Like if you do, you have St. Brown, you have JMO, and you draft somebody. We keep getting back to that, but people do need to prep themselves for that. Could happen, man. You could bring back Josh Reynolds and still draft a Keon Coleman at 29. Like, how this man operates. So, yeah, and Josh Reynolds blocks, like they love Jay Ray. I know people have the NFC Championship game front of mind, and I get it, but shoot, he was a chain mover and a really good blocker for the team, right?
Yeah, and they love him, right? They've professed all of the compliments they could possibly do on the guy, and so seems like I'm not going to say he's a shoo-in to return, because we've seen guys that seem like are shoo-ins, Jamal Williams, not return, but he's good depth, like both of you said, doesn't preclude them from drafting a wide receiver. I go back and forth on Donovan Peoples-Jones, because part of me is like, give him more time with a quarterback he hasn't taken any reps with. I mean, it's hard to jump in and have this built-in chemistry with Jared Goff. We've seen it take a while for a couple of receivers to kind of get used to him. And but then I also wonder, like, why would he want to return here? Like, yes, the Lions are Super Bowl contenders, but is he going to really get that many opportunities here? Like, he's not that far removed from actually having a really, really productive season in the NFL. I think he might want to go somewhere else where he can get, at least wide receiver 3 opportunities. He's essentially wide receiver 5 here if they bring back Reynolds, right?
Yeah, and he's DJ Shark 2.0, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
Like, not in the sense that he came here on a prove-it deal, but it seems like he'd be a guy who'd want to go elsewhere to try to get more opportunities. And the other thing too is, like, his skill set that we were all interested in seeing him flex was his deep ball, right? Like, as a deep ball receiver, he put up, incredible numbers with the Browns. Don't you want JMO doing that stuff? Don't you arguably want maybe even Khalif Raymond doing that stuff? Like, you have other deep threats that I feel more comfortable getting those targets and getting those opportunities more than I do DPJ. And it seems like if you're going to go Amon-Ra and JMO, and even if, Leaf and J-Ray are your top 4, like, that 5th guy should be a rookie, right? It should be Antoine Green, or it should be another receiver that you draft, or whomever it may be. And I think the perception on Josh Reynolds has really changed, though. Like, on the Athletics top 200 free agents, Josh Reynolds is ranked 28th.
Wow.
Like, I mean, that's pretty high. I mean, there's only 2 other wide receivers they have listed ahead of him, Calvin Ridley and Darnell Mooney. Like, he's ahead of Gabe Davis. He's ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. He's ahead of, like, Curtis Samuel. The only guy on free agency that I'm looking at this list, maybe bring in KJ Osborne so he doesn't have to play for the Vikings anymore.
I like that. I like that idea.
Wow. Just equanimous St. Brown erasure on this podcast.
There's only room for one St. Brown in this team.
They were campaigning for it a little bit on their podcast. They're like, EQ, you want to come here? He's like, I don't know. And I was like,
I mean, that way they can both go in the Reisman recording room and record their podcast there.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hey, also they don't have to wear those awful split jerseys. Their
That's
parents.
Right. Yeah.
I hate those, man. I know.
You can get rid of those. Yeah. And of course he would want to come play in Detroit.
Exactly.
How many years has he been in Chicago? Poor guy.
I know. It's time for, some fun.
All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, we're going to hit the defense. A lot to talk about on that side of the ball as our 2024 Detroit Lions free agency preview podcast continues. We'll be right back. All right, I'm taking the hair off. It's annoying. Sorry.
Allen Robinson? The Steelers saved $10 million by cutting Allen Robinson. That seems like a no-brainer. Like, what?
Poor Allen Robinson, man. I swear that guy's a good player.
The fall, man.
I swear he's a good player. He just needs a freaking quarterback. Someone give the man a quarterback.
That's not true. That's not true.
He had Mitchell all those years.
He had Matthew Stafford. Remember? He had that little stint with the Rams.
I barely remember that.
I barely.
Yeah, no, you barely remember it because you wouldn't have said what you just said. If only he had a quarterback.
Or what was it? Half a season? Or was it a full season? I don't know.
It was not. I mean, it wasn't good. I was really nervous when he signed with the Bears. Like I was like, man, I don't want to have to deal with Allen Robinson in the division.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll get to that in a minute, Austin. But let me run through some alerts here. Hi, YouTube. Missed you last time, but I see you're up and running. I have your chat up on my phone, so if you see me looking at my phone, I'm looking at you. But let me get through some alerts here, and then we'll hang out for a little bit with our live audience. If you have questions or topics you want us to discuss, like ranking our favorite Faygo flavors, as Austin Mammoth sent in a list cast request. I don't know how up to date you guys are on Faygo. It's been a while since I've had any Faygo, but I can Google flavors and figure out. Oh, I didn't even recognize why that was asked, but now he is.
I'm always drinking Faygo.
Really? You're so Detroit, man. You are like the most Detroit person I know.
I'm cheap, man. I get it from. There's a Dollar General around the corner. Oh man, it's great. It's just a great deal.
Do you just have like a stash of better made potato chips as well?
No, I have Faygo though. I keep my fridge stocked. I always have Sprite, Faygo, depending. I go through a little kick.
Okay.
Been on a Sprite kick though, for sure. I drink a lot of pop. I need to stop.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Do you guys drink pop? I know you guys are both on your old man games too.
Relatively speaking, no, but like if I'm indulging in fast food and I get a combo, like I'm gonna. There's the pop machine right there.
You get a regular Coke, not a Diet Coke. You get regular.
Depends how I'm feeling. Dr. Pepper is my go-to. I love Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I love Dr. Pepper. That's like my movie theater choice. Oh. Yes, they have orange creamsicle woodchuck hunter. Very good. I drink that. Yeah, that one.
Isn't that what you're drinking right now?
No, that's just orange. Sarah loves orange. She's a big orange.
What's the I was going to say what's the difference, but your answer was just going to be cream.
It's like it's like the like the ice cream bar.
Yeah, of course. I guess I don't view that much of a difference in the taste between orange soda and orange creamsicle soda.
I guess the difference would be, I would feel like orange pop would be more like tangy on your taste buds versus like the creamsicle flavor would be smoother.
Yeah. This is like citrusy. Right.
There you go.
Something like that.
That's it. I mean,
don't ask for milk when I go to fast food.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Someone said that. Tactile Puma.
Yeah. All right. I'll out Jeremy. Chat. He does have a tendency when he goes through the drive-thru, he orders warm milk right before bedtime. So
it's skim milk though. It's skim milk. I give him that.
I have never been in a drive-thru with you.
Skim milk.
Don't lie to the people.
Big skim milk guy.
You guys like Downy's potato chips? You ever had them?
I don't
think so.
Generally like potato chips, if I'm being completely honest.
What's your problem with potato chips?
Yeah,
what's greasy and salty.
What?
I don't know.
You just said you go through the drive-thru every once in a while. You can't have a bag of chips every once in a while?
I do have a bag of chips every once in a while, but if they're not kettle cooked, like I really don't want any part of them.
That's fine. I appreciate that.
I like kettle cooked more too. They're crunchier for sure. Yeah. I agree with that sentiment. Do you like French fries then?
I like French fries. Yeah.
Okay.
They got a little more substance to them.
Do you know what I've been doing as of late? If the option's there, and I know they have a good one, instead of going fries, I'll go house cooked chips.
No.
Those are good. Yeah. Or tater tots.
No.
No tater tots?
I'll mess with tater tots, but.
Oh. Not house made chips though. You don't make those.
No.
Ooh.
I mean, I'll go French fries first, but
again, I got a spot, Jeremy.
Oh.
Holly Cafe. This isn't O'Malley's Galley. I got some spots, and they got some chips.
Careful, don't say them out loud. Now we're gonna Keith Lee the place. You get that reference now.
I do get that reference.
He was here not too long ago.
Was he?
Yeah, Yeah, he was here, and then that Mr. Chime Time guy was here.
Yeah, I don't like that guy. That guy
Yeah.
hates everything.
The only cool thing is he came to this this guy opened this grocery store in our neighborhood, and like it was really like a big thing for us, and he like went there and spent like a bunch of money and like donated it. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I didn't like his other content for sure.
Anyways,
Sweet potato fries.
We're
Sweet
all-
potato fries are fine.
I had some sweet potato fries last night in downtown Ann Arbor. It was great. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was good.
I wouldn't pick them over regular fries, but if I get them, I'm gonna eat them. You know, you pick them over regular fries.
I think I would. If I trust the place. Like if it's I wouldn't trust like fast food sweet potato fries if there is a fast food place that does it. Anyways, we're already off the rails. I haven't gotten through any alerts, and the question was about Faygo flavors, and we somehow talked about potato chips.
We got the starches. Yeah.
It happens.
The Zoe, thank you for the 12-month subscribe, a full year subscribe to us on Twitch. Says, is it time for the season to start yet? Almost there. No, not even close. Sports Turf Pro, thank you for the 11 months. Has been waiting a long time for right now. POD or die. You don't have to be that dramatic, but thank you. If you don't listen to us, you don't need to die. You've clearly made a bad life choice, but that doesn't
Yeah.
that doesn't warrant death. 41 months from MJ Kimball, who says, snap into a righteous felon craft jerky. Yeah, I was kind of upset that I didn't have any meat sticks. I'm not really a meat sticks guy, but I did down this entire bag of Bourbon Franklin before the show. It's delicious.
No.
I only have
yeah.
one more bag left.
Is that like first thing you ate all day, or is that just, like,
Almost.
midday snack?
It was a snack. It was a snack to carry me over through until dinner.
That protein will carry you.
That's right. I'm telling you, it's if you're looking for a low calorie, high protein snack.
I love it. POD 15.
150 per container, and look how many grams of protein. 20.
Exclamation point jerky in the chat.
That's right, 15% off. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to do an ad read. We usually just do an ad read, one ad read per week, so
They only get 1 week. They could pay for 2.
that's right. How now, Brown Cow? 12 months, full year subscribed to channel, says Christian Wilkins, since we're not getting Lattimore. Well, we'll talk a little Christian Wilkins.
The Lions aren't getting Lattimore?
I don't know.
When did we hear that?
I don't think that's official or anything. But like the Lattimore thing is weird, right? And that you have to essentially wait to get him until July, June 1st,
Yeah.
June 2nd.
Yeah.
MJ Lee, 20 month subscribe channel, says free agent destination for a ring. That's why. I mean, if you guys read my PODD, I signed a lot of 30-year-olds in my kind of ideal free agent thing because I like the idea of just doing kind of the Band-Aid thing rather than investing long-term in a free agent. And 2, I think the Lions have some pull. I think you look at the NFLPA report card, Dan Campbell is the 3rd most popular coach in the league. You look at the situation here, it's fun. People want to be here. Silver Rush, 13 month subscribe channel, says, did the Benito Jones outfit ever make an appearance? No, we have not done that yet. But we will, I promise. We haven't cashed in on a lot of our Movember rewards, but we will. And I've been in the very preliminary stages. I'm just catching up on a lot of Movember stuff. If you won something in Movember, those have either gotten sent off or I've contacted you via email. So if you haven't seen it, check your emails. Our Movember shirts, I sent an email for that this week. So if you donated, I think it was $250 or more, you get a free shirt. So check your emails if you did. But yeah, we'll catch up on the stream rewards there. Probably not this month because I'm about to be in Florida, but next month maybe. But I promise we'll get to them. Quirky Zerky, 31 months subscribed channel, says 31 months of great Lions content. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great work, everyone. Looking forward to the Super Bowl podcast. Hey, that's 11 months away. Set your timers. Erwin, thank you for the 33 months. Says, how much Kool-Aid is too much Kool-Aid? I'll tell you when I get there.
Doesn't exist.
Good answer.
MNUFC 35 months as Macho Man. Yes, thanks to you. I believe it was you, right? The MNUFC who redeemed the Macho Man for how many channel points is it? I feel like I might have to crank it up a little bit.
You should wear that shirt around town. Just like, not the rest of the outfit.
So, by the way, like, it is not, this is a jacket that, and I'm wearing the undershirt for it, even though I don't have to, obviously.
Wow. Commitment to the gimmick. I
And
love
also, like, sweet-ass pants, too. But, like,
Careful, man.
This
We're
shirt
gonna
is-
violate terms of service.
oh boy, the zipper star. Oh, there we go. Like, look at this shirt. It's got, like, the little hemisphere of latex
Where'd you get
and
this?
faux leather. I don't know. I just, like, Googled Macho Man Randy Savage Halloween
Outfit.
costume.
You're doing the St. Brown Parrots thing right now.
Yeah, that's right. Which side is Amon Ra? Which side is Equanimous?
Amon Ra's
Cheetah.
he's clearly the cheetah side, right?
This side? All right.
Equanimous is the latex.
Is the Eddie Murphy stand-up special?
Raw, yeah.
Raw.
Or no, that was Delirious. Purple was Raw.
Tough Cam, 13 months as Slim Jim. Nab into it. Joshua Mercer, 100 bits, says Macho Man costume just doesn't hit right without the stash. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to grow it out.
It's also giving Michael Jackson vibes too, like Thriller. I'm just saying what I see.
Joshua Mercer, 100 bits, says, is it me or would Morgan pull off the Macho Man costume the best? He even has the perfect name for a pro wrestler.
I'd be down to dress like that. I don't have any cool costumes.
Morgan Cannon is undoubtedly a cool wrestling name.
Is it?
I think so.
Cool. I don't never. When I was a kid, I hated my first name, but then as I got older, I was just like, whatever,
The Cannon's a solid last name. We can all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very Irish, but
I mean,
Did you feel conflicted when the Lions were playing the Buccaneers in the divisional round? Because of your heritage?
the Buccaneers.
just Cannon.
Cannons.
Just a cannon
Oh,
on a pirate ship.
I was trying to tie it into the Irish thing. I was like, wow. Yeah. Yes, I was very.
Are we bullying Morgan like we're in high school?
No, we're not. Are we bullying you right now?
I don't know.
I think so. Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to bully you.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
The finishing move would be the cannon. Yeah, people in chat got it eventually. It looks like
Yeah.
more Jermaine than Michael.
Like if you were like an all-pro linebacker and you just like you laid on the biggest hits, Cannon would be such a great last name. You're just exploding. That whole I wasn't going to finish that sentence because I knew I was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Ryan's face turn. Keep going.
I have a friend who is now clipping when I say inappropriate things, so I have to be very careful.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Are
And
they
putting them on a soundboard.
That's actually
Oh.
awesome. Can we get those?
No, like if this was 2002, there'd be a Jeremy Reisman soundboard that you could do prank calls with.
Yeah.
Morgan might
Prank
remember.
calls.
Ryan, I'm not sure. Too young for that. Where there was just like you hit all these. You could.
Uh-huh. You
I'm
did
gonna
that?
be 33 this year. Cut it out.
I was gonna say, oh yeah, Ryan is basically my age.
Yeah.
No, he's a baby. All right. Silence means I need to go through our next alerts. Izzy, thank you for the 35 months. Says 35 months, very, very close to 3 years. That is very close. I would say like about a month away. Veltron68, 22 months subscribed to the channel. Brad Holmes' Bulge, 10 months subscribed channel, says Bulge here if assistance if needed. Noted. JBTV, thank you for the follow. Lions finally win, 43 months subscribed to the channel. And Blade Ice Woods, 2 months subscribed to the channel. And this is a good reminder. If you're not subscribed to us on Twitch, that means you'll see ads. You won't get channel points as quickly. But you can subscribe for free If you have an Amazon Prime account, you just link that Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You press the subscribe button, look for the little checkbox of using your Prime Gaming subscription. Absolutely free. It does not automatically renew, though, so if you did it last month, you got to do it all over again this month. And it's a way to support us without costing you a dime. Booze and Bub, 16-month subscribe channel, says, the pick is in Zach Frazier.
Nope, I'm in.
You're in?
Yeah, are you kidding me? Drafting a guy who's like a 4-year wrestler and has mitts the size of Andre the Giant? Yeah, I want that guy.
Yep.
Fair.
Also, great name, Blade Icewoods. Great name.
That's good.
Is that a reference that I don't know?
Yeah, it's the boss up dance. Like you've seen, like when people come.
Aiden
like,
Hutchinson.
Yeah.
What
Allen
part?
Robinson, when he came here as a Jaguar, I remember he did it. I was like, stop that.
That entire thing is called the Blade Icewoods?
It's a song. It's called Bossin' Up.
Oh.
So he's an old rapper. I think his kid is like a rapper now, which makes me feel ancient. Yes, R.I.P. though. But yeah, I just thought that was a good name, Blade Icewoods. Someone needs to come up with a rolling paper like on that name. You know what I'm saying? Blade. I don't know why that just came to me.
I have an idea.
Stash that one away. Boy, would you? Yeah, someone RGA 418.
I'm so old. I don't know any. You guys are talking a different language than me.
This is an old rapper too. That's the thing. He's like, I don't even know how. Yeah, passed away a long time ago.
All right, I'm through alerts.
Y2K. Someone, yeah, no, I've never talked to a younger person about Y2K, but that'd be funny though, because they'd be like, "Why were y'all so scared?" I don't know. We thought the machines were going to turn off or something. I don't know what. I was only 10. So
Yeah, I just know there was a lot of trepidation. Like people were legitimately worried. You know what I mean? Like people were like buying out the grocery stores for like water and toilet paper. Like it was like
It was pretty wild.
it was like people knew that COVID was going to like I think the way that you could explain it to somebody from like this generation would be like, imagine people knew COVID was going to happen and they went to the grocery store ahead of time, but then the next day they woke up like COVID had not happened. So
Yeah,
just had a lot of toilet paper and milk.
that's right.
yeah.
It's
SpaghettiOs.
it was incredibly weird though, like just not knowing. Most experts were saying like probably okay, but no one was out there saying like we're definitely going to be fine.
Right. Yeah.
There
was enough
Need some assurances.
there was enough of like concern that it created noise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like, huh.
And it didn't feel conspiracy theory ish at the time.
No.
Imagine if Y2K happened now though.
Right.
Like
There'd
it
be all
would just
kinds of stuff. Oh my God,
it would just
yeah.
get memed to death, right? Like that I don't know that like I think a thing that's very strange and it's happening like in real time as a teacher is like kids have no idea what like about September 11th. Like that's like doesn't mean anything to them. A freshman this year is they were born in 2009. Like if you're a freshman this year.
Don't why you guys say that?
For real?
Yeah. So like
2009 was like 2 years ago.
Dude, I graduated high school in 2009. Oh my God.
yeah, I graduated high school in 2009. So like Jeremy did not graduate high school in 2009.
I was out of college by 2009.
Yeah, dude, you're so
But
old.
you know what, Jeremy? You look younger than me right now. You should with the
That's
with the
true.
clean face.
Yeah,
You look young.
that's because
Look like
the
a spring chicken.
these cover up the grays. I wear them a little
yeah.
higher so that you can't see the grays on the side.
Dude, but you're in your Reed Richards right now, right, Morgan?
I say the
Like,
salt and pepper looks good, man. I would just keep rocking. I'm gonna be. Gray
I'm not
soon.
gonna dye
Like,
it.
I won't lose any hair, but I'm gonna be gray. But I'm gonna look like Gandalf and grow my hair out again. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait. Read the. Did you see the Nick the Greek thing?
One bit from Nick the Greek says Matt Patricia has retired from the sport of football and will instead be serving as the entire payload on SpaceX's Falcon 2 rocket.
Oh,
He
fat
said-
jokes.
He said something earlier about Matt Patricia's going to coach high school football and he's going to get a lawsuit from treating a 10th grader the way he treated Darius Slay.
Jeez.
It's like the only place where Matt Patricia should ever get away with a guard rotation is in high school football.
Yeah, do it then. Go nuts.
Yeah.
Go nuts, Matty P.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I was born in 90, Darth Tater.
Josh Paland over on YouTube asked, "Are you doing anything for the draft?" The answer is it's complicated.
Maybe
the answer is
short answer.
We're trying. None of us are great planners, but we're working on it. Here, I'll go ahead and say here's what we're trying to do. At first, we were trying to do a 2-legged thing. I think we're probably abandoning those plans. We were trying to do a live podcast before the draft, like a couple days before, like our draft preview podcast somewhere in Detroit, live in front of hopefully an audience, and then a live show like we've been doing for a few years on Twitch somewhere also live. So like 2 live events, one before the draft, one during the first round of the draft. Seems like best chance is that we're only going to be able to do one of those 2. And it would make most sense for us, I think, especially if we want to get a good venue to do the preview show. So like either that Monday or that Tuesday, doing a live podcast, hopefully getting like a bunch of people. Like the original idea was to have like multiple podcast shows recorded. So we'll do like a First Bite. We'll do like a main POD cast. We'll do a Q&A show. You know, maybe even Morgan and Miko do like a YouTube type of thing, all live. So that's the aim right now. I'm not gonna promise that we're gonna get it done, but this feels like the year we should be doing it, considering the draft is here, considering we've never done a live show. So I'm hoping we can get the details worked out by the end of the month, so that we can present it, we can start promoting it, selling tickets or whatever. Because like I want to do it big. I want to maybe get a charity involved. I want to maybe do an auction or a raffle, and damn, like I want to meet a bunch of you guys in person.
We're trying to work it out. Like I have one spot in mind. We kind of have the preview show area spot worked out. We won't announce it yet, but then we have a couple things in mind in like Eastern Market area for like the live show, if that were to happen. And then we have a couple other things too. Like we talked about just doing a live show from my house. Cause I told Miko we'd be able to, for those of y'all that don't know, I live in Detroit, just on the east side. And we could easily go and like have the experience and like walk around during the day and like get home and still be able to do a live stream in the evening. So we got a couple things cooking. So definitely keep your eyes out.
Yep. All right. Let's do the Faygo thing before we forget about it.
Oh yeah, okay.
I need to pull up something that has Faygo flavors because, like I said, it's been a while.
For me, I'll go. Shoot. Probably Moon Mist, Rock and Rye, Red Pop.
What's Moon Mist?
It's like their spin on like a Spritey type.
Okay.
Tasty though, very good. Rock and Rye, like it's a very old man flavor.
Rock and Rye's great. Isn't Rock and Rye kind of Dr. Pepperish?
You would like Rock and Rye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know how to explain it. It's not like, yeah, Mountain Dew knockoff, isn't it? Someone said Mountain Dew knockoff. But yeah, that's probably, I like Moon Mist a lot. My girlfriend loves orange. That's why I have that there. I was like, okay, this is cold. I just needed it for the podcast. So what about you, Ryan?
Man, I don't know if I want to exactly lay out all the way where I am, but like some other names that I think just deserve honorable mentions. I'm a big, when I was a kid, 2 flavors. One, Faygo Peach.
Oh.
I love the peach flavor when I was a kid. And then the other one, actually I have 2 more, but one of them is like a controversial opinion, but the other one is I love Red Pop.
Yeah.
Like I like Red Pop, and it'd be kind of hard for me to stack 1 and 2 because Red Pop and then cream soda would be up there because I love cream soda. The controversial one though is grape. Like I love grape soda. I know some people don't like that artificial flavor, but as far as artificial flavors go, like I'll take grape over banana artificial flavor. I'll take grape over like apple artificial flavor. So
in everything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was hoping maybe just Faygo had a particularly good grape because I'm in the not a fan of artificial grape flavor.
Okay.
I'm usually not with banana either, so I'm with you there.
Yeah, I like grape Kool-Aid a lot. Like that's one of my favorite Kool-Aid flavors. Like in the summer, like when I have a pitcher of Kool-Aid just in the fridge.
Okay.
But, yeah, grape. Like you can't really go wrong, man. I love the Dreamsicle. Like that's a newer flavor.
Yeah, I'd like to try that. I have not had that. I think the only three that I feel like I'm accustomed to and can speak on really is Rock and Rye, which is probably my favorite, Orange, and then Red Pop in that order.
I haven't had Red Pop in so long. I might go get one today just to enjoy it.
Guys want to
have you
just meet up and drink Faygos in a garage?
There's some more in my. I have red in my basement fridge right now, but I have a rule only one Faygo a day. Otherwise, I'm gonna be 300 here before it's it's too.
That's probably a good plan to stick to, Morgan. Like
one Faygo a day. Yeah, keeps a doctor away. That's what they say.
Like I could never. I think the thing that scared me away from pop the most was one, diabetes, and two, a close second was like kidney stones.
I drink a lot of water too, chat, and I eat my vegetables and drink water, but I'm also like I'll be slamming. Like I eat at the Coney, it's cheap and delicious, and I'm lazy. So.
Yep. Have you guys ever had the firework flavor?
We just talk about
that.
that.
Yeah, not my favorite.
Didn't you just say? Isn't that the firework one?
It's clear. It's clear.
Yeah, you just talked about it though, right? I didn't imagine that. Oh, maybe I did imagine that. I thought you said the one that you said was kind of new.
Oh, Dreamsicle.
Oh, that's Creamsicle. I'm an idiot. For some reason when you said that, I was picturing the Bomb Pop.
Yeah.
No, that's the fire. Yeah, that's what you're talking about, Ryan. The firework one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just reading the description of it, someone's saying, imagine if you mixed some squirt with a couple of those melted popsicles together.
I would say it's a lights out flavor.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty good. I give it to him.
It always happens at a good time.
By the way, I did not call Red Pop C tier. It's just out of the three flavors that I've had, it's my least favorite. They're all I like them all.
Are people getting on your ass in chat?
It's a couple.
Someone was like, it's artificial, by bad. Faygo is all artificial. That's why it's so cheap. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like,
yeah. How much is a bottle? These, because I haven't bought one probably in.
I mean, they used to be 99
over
cents,
10
right?
years.
Like, those. Do they come outside of the 24 ounces?
Dude, I feel like I get a 6-pack of these for like $5.19 at the Dollar General.
And pop out of a glass bottle is very underrated.
It is bougie. It feels bougie.
I feel like a real like sophisticated man when I'm drinking my Faygo out of glass.
It was one of the most annoying things to stock back when I worked for Coca-Cola was stocking. Well, I mean, they call it like the Mexican Cola.
Coke.
Yeah,
yes,
because
yes.
people. I mean, those are 10 for 10 at Kroger.
What?
And oh yeah. Well, I mean, back
you guys are going to get me back on pop again.
I'm telling you, it's economical. You don't want to lose money.
Jeremy's going to be DMing me on Slack at like 2:30 in the morning while I was trying to pass a kidney stone. You son of a...
I'm just going to FaceTime you from the bathroom floor, and there's just going to be strewn about bottles on it.
It's a Faygo addict.
Yeah, it's also...
was 69 cents for a 2-liter. Yeah, see, that's crazy. You can't go wrong.
Gosh, man. No wonder people are going through it.
Dude, I remember in middle school... I could walk home from middle school, but I'd pass a mobile gas station, and they had 44-ounce fountain drinks for 44 cents.
Duh. Right? Like, why would you not go in there?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
But also, why does a 13-year-old kid need 44 ounces of pop?
If
Right, he's going to be awake forever.
Dude, if I put 44 ounces of pop in my 7-year-old, you know what would happen? I don't know, and I don't want to know. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you don't feed a gremlin after dark. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's true.
don't do that.
Yes, Michigan does still have the bottle deposits.
Yeah.
They do. And if,
Water.
I've always wanted to attempt what Kramer and Newman try to attempt
I
in
don't
that
remember
episode of
what it
Seinfeld. Well, like Kramer sold on the idea that because they see the 10 cent on Michigan and they're like going to return
Yeah.
all the New York, but like Newman is like at the beginning, he's like, no, I've already done all the math. It can't be done. Like you have to pay for gas and gas wipes it out. And then Kramer's like, but what about like the Postal Service truck where you don't have to pay for gas? It's like, we'll make out like bandits. And then it was like hilarity ensues. But when I was young, that was like going to be like one of my get rich schemes. I remember I was like 10 cents. Like I can live in Ohio and I can return these.
Here's the thing too, is as someone points out in chat, I think it's illegal. Second of all, I think there's ways that they prevent it, because I feel like I've bought like a Pepsi or something in a Florida airport, brought it with me and tried to put it through one of those machines, and it's like, no, we don't accept this brand.
Wow.
Like the barcode can tell it's in Florida or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not.
Drew Falcon right there.
Yeah.
Different barcodes in different states.
Yeah.
Someone said it's illegal. Wow.
It's only illegal if you get caught.
Let's say you're a criminal, Jeremy. That's what it sounds like.
Can you imagine, like, though, being so petty as I mean, how theoretically rich could you get doing something like this?
You're going to be 6 feet under before you get rich.
Right. And so why is this law in place? Why are they going through this extra step to...
That's a good point.
They're trying to cheat us, is what I'm trying to say. They're trying to ruin the American dream of getting rich 5 cents at a time. Going from a 5-cent bottle deposit to a 10-cent.
Someone asked, did you ever get your keys?
No. I don't think they're coming. They've been... Here's what I think has happened. Because I'm only getting pings from like 9 to 5, like work hours. And it's in the same spot. I think it's just someone who works at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, like, somehow is using them for something. I don't know what. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they're just using the tracker. Maybe the keys are no longer on the key ring with the tracker. But it's always the same spot. And today was a little different. I got a ping from the road right next to the building. But far enough away where I don't think it was just like a missed ping. So it's like someone is carrying them into the same building every day.
Why would you carry an extra set of keys?
But it's not. My guess is my keys are not even on that anymore. It's just the little tracker thing. It's a tile that's on my key ring. It's not the tracker isn't in the key themselves. It's on the same key ring.
Yeah.
Your
Wait.
keys are in the garbage somewhere.
But I don't.
Someone just took the tracker.
Yeah, but I'm trying to. The thing that I can't figure out is if the tracker is, if they can use it for anything. If I'm still getting the pings for it.
I don't know. It's a good question.
But it's been there for like a week and a half now, and so I don't think it's leaving. I don't think I'm getting it. Someone reached out to me on Twitter and like, I'm good friends with a cop in Dallas. Do you want me to get them involved? I'm like, I mean, you don't have to. I have keys for everything. Like, I have replacement keys and everything. It'd be nice to have them back, but I don't need to get the authorities involved.
Right.
Yeah, you probably don't after you just admitted to trying to commit whatever crime you just did, bringing bottle fraud.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Bottle fraud.
Thing is, I wasn't like consciously trying to do that. I'm just like, I have a bottle here. Hey, I should go recycle it.
Hey, people don't try to knowingly commit tax fraud.
Yeah.
Stop it. The Dizzy Wizard, thank you for the 8 months subscribed to the channel. Quirky Zerky 4-bit says, after 10 to 15 years of collecting bottles and cans at the firework festivals in Montreal and splitting up between my siblings, I netted $1,900 in the end. Wow.
Dang. $1,900.
But that's $190 a year at best. He said 10 to 15. That's 10 years of doing that. $190 a year.
Dang, the guy said Joshua Mercer, the guy in the Navy, yeah, that's a good way to go to Leavenworth. Not a good idea. Leavenworth is a long-term military prison.
Oh.
Oof.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like anywhere I'd want to be.
No, me neither.
All right. Anything else before we get back into it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I can think of.
Isaiah Feichner on YouTube is getting impatient because we're not talking Lions football, which tends to be a common thing, particularly on YouTube, because we're new on YouTube and they don't realize that we spend like 40 minutes talking Lions football, an hour and a half not talking Lions football, and then 45 minutes talking Lions football again. I understand that's weird for a Lions podcast. I get it. Most people are much smarter and more efficient with their time than we are.
Yeah. It's also the off season, so get used to it.
True.
Yeah, guys.
True. But I don't know. We like interacting with our live audience, and quite simply, a lot of the times they want to talk about food, so we talk about food.
Food, Fago, stupid things. It's fun. Come on. It's March 8th. You know
It's
what I mean?
really easy to get us off topic too.
True.
And chat knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
That Fago
complicit.
Cast, that guy
Right.
that person threw a grenade and just walked off. That's what that was.
That's true. I haven't seen anyone do a Lions free agent targets list cast.
Yeah, right?
It's true.
Anyways, we'll get to it.
Someone said Fago is not a stupid thing. You're right, Austin Man. Yeah.
Excuse me. Move this. Oh, I can't edit your Google Doc because I don't have access.
Well, I always get the Jarritos when I go to Mexican town and eat tacos.
Ooh, I had a
For sure.
Doritos recently. It was delicious.
Tasty. I like the green one. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what the flavor is, but
Green
green sounds good. When I hear
Green
tater tots,
flavor.
Green flavor. It goes by Kool-Aid rules. You just
green pop.
the flavor
for
is the
real.
color. All right. And we are back here on the PODcast previewing 2024 free agency. We talked about the offense. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball. Again, I kind of want to just brush past the one position that we're not going to talk about at all because the Lions are almost certainly just going to return all 6 guys, and that's linebacker. They already have Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Malcolm Rodriguez under contract. According to Dave Burkett, the Lions are working on re-signing Anthony Pittman, so nothing to do there, essentially. And I would almost say, like, we can probably feel pretty comfortable that the Lions aren't going to draft a linebacker early in the draft this year, and I also probably would have said that last year, too. So I guess I'm not completely saying it won't happen. A guy like Derek Barnes is on the final year of his contract, so maybe there's a bit of a long-term need there, but they re-signed Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I think once they re-sign Anthony Pittman, they're probably done there. Can we all agree with that and move on to some actual needs here?
Unless you want to get like nitpicky and technical and be like, well, what about a Sam linebacker? Right? Like, but I don't know. Don't you guys just get the feeling like the Lions might be cool with, hey, if James Houston works out, awesome. We have a cool Sam linebacker. If James Houston doesn't work out, cool. We'll just have 5 down linemen.
Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Or just
Yeah.
like the
Like-
situational pass rusher, Sam linebacker type of thing. And Sam in general, I don't think is ever going to be like a full-time role anyways. But yeah. All right, we'll move on from that. Let's just start with the big guns here. Let's start with cornerback because that's where the most smoke has been so far. That's where most people believe is the biggest need on defense, maybe the entire team. We've heard L'Jarius Sneed trade rumors. We're starting to hear some more trade rumors about, I keep forgetting the Browns corner's name.
Greg Newsome the second.
Greg Newsome. I keep throwing out J.C. Horn as a possible trade target. Only that's pure speculation. That's not any source, but it seems like the Lions are taking cornerback pretty seriously, and as they obviously should. Again, I'll run down the guys that are actually under contract, which is a relatively short list, given some of the decisions they've already made. Cam Sutton, Brian Branch, Emmanuel Mosley is going to return on a 1-year deal. We don't have the terms on that yet. Stephen Gilmore is under contract, and Craig James is on a futures deal. But we've learned that the Lions are not going to extend an ERFA offer to Chase Lucas, and I want to talk about that in a second. They are not giving Jerry Jacobs his restricted free agent tender. And then you have Kendall Vildor, Will Harris, and Khalil Dorsey, all free agents to be, Khalil Dorsey being a restricted free agent. So a lot of work to do there. Let's talk internally first. Let's talk the relatively surprising decision not to bring back Chase Lucas as an exclusive rights free agent, which is basically a free spot. Like, that's a free spot on the bingo card. And Chase Lucas was a pretty hefty special teams contributor. He was in the playoffs, but there were some roster shenanigans they did with him this year. He didn't make the initial 53. They cut him towards the end of last season, which, I mean, he went on waivers. He could have potentially gone somewhere else, but he cleared waivers. They brought him back. All that being said, the sense I get is if they valued him enough to be a special teamer and they brought him back all of these times that they cut him, he was worth an ERFA tender. And so that tells me maybe there's a little bit of Chase being like, no thanks. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I can't make any sense of it in any other way.
Do you feel like it's an opportunity thing? Is that what we're kind of getting at here too? Like, does Chase feel like he's been around long enough? I mean, he was 2021 pick, right? Like,
right.
He's been here for a minute, and he's
sure
been on the roster, off the roster, practice. Like, and
remember,
he's been through the ringer.
And remember, there were times when I can't remember if it was this year or last year where, like, he had other opportunities and he chose to stay in Detroit.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it just, I don't know. Maybe it got to the point where it felt like the opportunity might not be here. Like, I've stuck around long enough. I've tried, to break my way in here. Maybe I need to go somewhere where, the floor is much lower than it is, which is kind of surprising because look at the state of the Lions cornerback.
Sure.
And maybe just Chase is looked upon as a nickel guy, right? So it's like, you taking that spot from Brian Branch? No. Are you? I mean, like, would the Lions be hard pressed to have a backup safety who could moonlight there ahead of you, Chase Lucas? Probably. You know what I mean? So maybe he just felt like his opportunities were running thin here.
Yeah, I'm sure he likes being here. They like him, but at the end of they did a bunch of roster gymnastics with him over the course of 2023. And you took the words out of my mouth, Ryan. Just looking at you're looking at Brian Branch, you're like, well, I'm not starting anytime soon, so I get it for sure from his perspective. Excuse me.
The other decision that has essentially been made, it seems like, unless there's always a chance he returns, but the Lions are not going to give Jerry Jacobs his restricted free agent tender, which means he's going to head towards free agency unless the Lions sign him to a normal deal. I don't think it's a surprise that the Lions didn't give him an RFA tender, $3 million a year. They probably weren't willing to pay that much for him. Are you surprised at all that this appears headed to a divorce, or is this the Lions not just cleaning up their starters, but maybe improving their depth too?
I think it's a bit of both, right? Just because, I mean, Jerry was the starter to begin the year, him and Cam Sutton, and then, just the play wasn't there, and it was really inconsistent, and Kendall Vildor came off the couch and started over him, and I think the writing is just on the wall. Like, I'm sure, like, it might just be time for a fresh start, and for both parties, right?
Yeah, it does feel like a fresh start for everybody.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, man, because obviously a really good story, a really good guy, a hard worker. I think that's maybe the thing that's surprising to me the most is like he absolutely a culture fit and actually absolutely a dog. All of the intangible stuff that the Lions always talk about, like that is Jerry Jacobs to a T. But I guess it's kind of that sign that like that's not enough anymore. Like you have to have that dog and you have to be a contributor for us regularly, if not as a cornerback, but on special teams. And Jerry's just, that's not his game, unfortunately. I think he has value in this league. I think he could even be a potential starter somewhere, but the Lions are clearly looking to upgrade. And I guess it was just, like you guys said, I think a clean split for both teams both sides is probably best.
And this feels like the spot that is analogous to guard on offense, right? Like cornerback, it's like the Lions need to bring in at least two guys who they feel confident putting out on the field day one of training camp, right? Like Cam is involved. Sutton is going to be a starter for this football team, but it feels like very much like an investment in free agency and an investment in the draft in the same way that it feels like, for guard on offense.
No question. So let's talk about some of those investments that they can make in free agency, or maybe this is where we start is with the trades, because it seems like whether you believe the rumors or not, the Lions are exploring every single opportunity, and that includes trades, including L'Jarius Sneed, including Newsome. So do you guys have a favorite option there as a trade? Are you guys for or maybe even against doing a trade, because it's not obviously only going to cost you cap space, it's going to cost you draft capital? Are you obviously, I think we all want the Lions to attack this pretty aggressively, but is that a step too far for either of you? Start with Morgan.
No, not necessarily, just because I think, they do need to be aggressive, right, when it comes to attacking this position. So I'm for the Newsome trade. I don't really know what the capital would look like for that in terms of a trade. I know they probably want to, I don't know, like a day 3 or a day 2. I don't know. But I think that what was floated out for Lattimore was a 5th, right?
Yeah. Because Lattimore's got an injury history and
and it can't be completed until July, so that's a weird, right?
Yeah.
So
if they want to save cap in a way that would actually help them, the Saints would have to wait until June to do it. So yeah,
and they have a lot of cap issues from all the years of kicking the can down the road. So what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the investment when it comes to, I don't know, like there's part of me that feels like if you're going to make a trade for a guy, you have to make sure that you're making the trade for a player who you can envision here long term.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it's an investment like trading for Lattimore, right? Like if you trade for Lattimore, there's an easy out, right? Like it's a year, especially if you structure the contract the way it needs to be structured.
Yep.
Like you have that, hey, either he plays really well this year and we can move on, or if he doesn't play so well, we have an out. I think if you're making a move for like a JC Horn, right? Like you're thinking about that in terms of we're finding a guy for not only this year, but a guy we feel comfortable in investing in the future too, which maybe takes a little bit of the pressure off you on draft day, right? Like on day 1 or day 2 being like, man, we always kind of have like corner in the, in the corner of our minds thinking like, we don't feel so comfortable at that spot in the here and now.
Yeah.
And depending on, I guess, Jeremy, how they take care of this in free agency, whether it's a trade or they're going out to get a guy, it feels very much like this is the spot where at guard, I don't know if you want to spend that much on Jonah Jackson. On a cornerback, I'm very open to opening up the coffers, whether it's the checkbook or maybe even potentially draft capital. If you can get a guy that you feel comfortable as this is a guy that we can get behind long term.
Yeah, I mean, cornerbacks are hard to come by. It's the biggest need. It's an extremely difficult position. I found it interesting. Brad Holmes at the NFL Combine was like, I love watching cornerbacks like that. That was like his dream position, and he's very passionate about corners, and it's interesting because that's been the position that the Lions have struggled at most really since he's taken over. But it like I think I didn't believe some of the stuff early on in free in free agency rumor period where it's just like, Brad Holmes keeps saying, like, we're not trying to win March. We're not trying to, but like, there's a heck of a lot of smoke now. And I think they're going to be aggressive. And I don't mind that they're going to be aggressive, but that has its limits in terms of if you're a college scout like you are with Brad Holmes and you're as good as drafting as he is, not sure I want to see him giving up a lot of draft capital. If it is one of those day 3 picks, you're taking a 1-year rental, and if it turns into a long-term deal, great. I get that. I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. It can't be your primary move, but I'm good with that being like, if you were to make a JC Horn, great. That's a 1-year thing where it's like, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll see, and we'll go from there. But you also need to do something else then. Whether it is drafting another guy, whether it is reaching out and getting a Marshawn Lattimore, not a Marshawn, the veteran corner that we have his brother of.
Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore, thank you. Supplementing a risky or low impact trade with something that's a little bit more sure. Now, if we're talking about going big with a L'Jarius Sneed or Newsom or whatever, it's a little bit harder for me to accept because you're going to have to give away day 2 capital. I don't want to give away anything more than a 3rd round pick, knowing how good Brad Holmes is at drafting, because I almost trust him better to use a day 2 pick, a 2nd round pick, to find a corner that's going to be good, and you get 4 years of cost controlled play out of him, rather than blowing it on a player that there's no guarantee he's going to succeed here. The whole external free agent thing we talked about in the last segment, there's risk there. And then you're also going to be handing that guy a monster contract. So, like, you're paying out of both ends here on a guy that comes with some risk, maybe not as much risk as a 2nd round pick, but a significant amount of risk.
Yeah. Jalen Johnson got an awful lot of money to stay in Chicago. I think I'm right there with you, Jeremy, in terms of it feels like a better long-term investment to view, pick 61 or whatever they have in the 2nd round, right, as like a cornerback rather than L'Jarius Sneed plus whatever contract extension you're giving him.
Right.
Like, I would feel much better going the Stephon Gilmore route or the Marshawn Lattimore if it's it's a 1-year, I don't know, $10-11 million contract for Gilmore. Cool, sweet. Like, if you don't think that his play has fallen off a cliff and you think you have a guy who can be a strong Band-Aid for you in a year, I'm more in tune with that. And here's the other thing too, taking multiple swings in the draft, right? Like, draft a couple corners. I don't go crazy. Draft 3. Like, I don't know, like, get it figured out though, because this is the thing with cornerback is like, until you have your guys, like, look how tough it's been, especially in Detroit, right? Like, ever since moving out from Slay, what have the Lions had to hang their hat on when it comes to cornerback play? Like, outside cornerback play. It's been tough.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people are probably, let's go all in on L'Jarius Sneed, like, right? Like, let's just not mess around and get the most talented dude that's available. And I get the idea there, and I'm not going to be like upset if the Lions do that, but I am going to be a little nervous. It's a big swing. And Brad Holmes has not made a lot of big swings in free agency or via trade.
They don't make a big swing like that for a trade, and like kind of in the same vein as Gilmore, like Chidobe Awuzie would be another. Like, I would be fine with that, like a 2-year, like similar to Cam's, like, money in turn, like what Cam's like 11 million average annual value. So I feel like Awuzie would come in around there, and he played really well bouncing back from that ACL that he suffered in 2022. He was good last year for the Bengals, so. And I think they would keep him, but they have a bunch of day 2 picks they used over the past couple years that I feel like they want to play. So, yeah, that would be a good one. But I'm with you. If they do want to pull the trigger, I don't even know if Sneed's might. I know he's the popular one, but those flags scare me, man. He averages like a flag a game.
He sure does. Like, literally, what, 18? I think PFF had.
18.
That's crazy.
That is a lot. The other name I wanted to toss out, though, that I thought was, I mean, people keep on mentioning his name, but like Kendall Fuller, like, what is that going to cost on the open market? Because that seems like about as sure of a thing without the draft capital investment you have to make on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we're all kind of in agreement here that the Lions need to upgrade at corner. But again, I think it comes back to at what cost, right?
That's right.
Like at the cost of, I think the draft capital is a step too far when it comes with the contract, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I am a little surprised to hear all the rumors that I do about doing exactly what you just said, investing significant draft capital and salary cap money. Sorry, Ryan's lights went out, and so it's distracting all of us right now. But let's move away from corner and what a lot of people might consider their second biggest need on defense, and that's edge. Again, really quickly, let's run through the contract situations. Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Pascal, John Kaminsky, Matthew Betts out of Canada, and Mitchell Agude, all under contract. They've already lost Julian Okwara. Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara are both unrestricted free agents now on their voided years in their adjusted contract. And James Houston, an exclusive rights free agent, so he is most likely / almost certainly back. So I'm guessing you guys are probably with me in thinking Romeo and Charles are gone. There's really no point in a reunion there. Do either of you think even bringing them back on a 1 year, $2-3 million deal is worth it?
Maybe Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of he has that inside out flexibility that they love. He can play the 3 tech, he can set an edge. But yeah, sadly, Charles Harris, man, I don't just father time caught up with him, and I don't know.
In a hurry. That man was a starter and a captain at the beginning of the season, and then was in a healthy scratch by the end of it.
Off a cliff.
We will remember Charles Harris's 2021 season very fondly. He was the defensive MVP of that team.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time that Jeremy referenced his double team rate heading into 2022 and how optimistic we were about Charles Harris, I would have as many dollars as I would if I tried to return cans from New York to Michigan.
I was predicting that man to have a breakout season 3 seasons in a row. I was right 1 year, and then the second year was like, okay, now they got Aiden Hutchinson. He's going to break out. And then it was like, okay, he was a little injured in 2022. Now he's healthy with Aiden Hutchinson. No, I swung and missed hard there.
That's all right. I think I'm there with Morgan, though, as far as Romeo. I think another interesting question, though, is like the commish. Mm-hmm. Is he a guy that you expect to be part of the equation here, or are we talking cap casualty?
Yeah, I mean, I guess now that we're 3 days away from the negotiating period here, I guess he's staying. And that's kind of what I expected of them. It was a down year for him last year after he got the 2-year deal here in Detroit, but he is getting a pretty hefty pay raise. His cap hit is $6.3 million this year, which means they're probably overpaying him, right? But they were probably underpaying him for a couple of these other years, so it's just kind of how it works. There's always a chance that they approach him about a pay cut and things like that, but they're not really in a situation where they need to. So I think he's going to stay, but you probably don't want to be in a situation where he's playing a lot. I think the hope is that Josh Pascal essentially overtakes him in terms of snap counts, in terms of role, and John Kaminsky is just a rotational guy that gets 10 to 15 snaps a game.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that.
That's ideal, right? Like if he's eating a ton of it was like the conversation we were having last year about Bugs, right? Like you just didn't want Bugs having 70% of the interior snap share. That's just too much for any one player if you're not Chris Jones or someone like that. So yeah, I think they do save 4.6 though if you cut Kaminsky. That's
yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, if you're talking about a guy who if everything goes right, is probably playing only 10 to 15 snaps a game, and you're paying him $6.3 million. That's not exactly great working of the books, but again, it's treating a player that's done everything right well. It's not cutting costs when you don't have to necessarily cut costs. But if the Lions do find themselves in a pinch, or they do make one of these big moves and want to make another one, that is an opportunity to cut a little bit of your budget a little bit, but we'll see. Let's talk more about now external guys, guys that you think might be fit here. I just wrote an article about 11 edge. It's actually a fairly decent edge free agency class, considering it's one of those positions where you don't normally see a lot of guys available. Obviously, your Brian Burns already off the market via the franchise tag, but throw some names out there, guys. Who are you looking as maybe either a guy that the Lions could go all in, maybe a budget guy that you like, or maybe a bargain bin, a 2-for-1 DVD bin kind of guy? Who wants to go first?
I'll take things. I think there are a couple interesting names, and I feel the same way about edge as I do corner, right? Like it's one of those premium positions where I don't mind if you want to get splashy at it, if you want to take a big swing.
You want to go Daniil Hunter?
I don't know. Like, is that the only thing I think that concerns you is the injury history, right?
Sure.
Like it's about the greatest ability, Jeremy, and I don't know if you do your due diligence and you think that he can be healthy. That's a big time game changer for your defense.
Yeah.
Like Daniil Hunter and Aiden Hutchinson makes the cornerback problem less of a problem.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think he's an interesting name. But as far as like some other names that I think are like kind of sneaky, I think they'd be good fits here. Somebody like AJ Epinesa. That's a guy I remember from his Iowa days is like that seems like very much like a Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell type of guy in terms of ability to set the edge. He actually showed a little bit of pass rushing chops here in the NFL when he was playing with Buffalo. Another name that's really popular, right, is Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of Van Ginkel fans.
It's easy looking at that 91.1 PFF grade from last year and be like, yeah, give me that guy.
Yeah, like I'd be in on that guy. And what's interesting though is like, the PFF contract projection, like 2 years, $6.5 million average each year.
Yeah.
Like seems like a guy like that would probably get a little bit more coin on the open market, but there's a few names. You guys got anybody else to throw?
I want to talk a little bit more about Van Ginkel because he is kind of one of the more fascinating guys out there, and I think the reason for the relatively low contract is the sack numbers aren't really there, but he's a guy that does a little bit of everything, including more than probably any other edge in this class. If you want to talk Sam linebacker role, this dude drops into coverage a lot, like a ton, and he's pretty good at it. I think he had 8 pass breakups last year. Which is more than probably almost every Lions cornerback last year. So, we lament the fact that they try to make James Houston drop into coverage all the time. This is a guy that can do that. This is a guy that can do that and add a little bit of pass rush. He's not going to be an elite pass rusher. So if you're looking for a 60 to 70 pressures a year type of guy opposite Aiden Hutchinson, that's not who Van Ginkel is. But if they're looking for that like guy that it seems like they've been searching for a long time with Julian. I know Julian was an inheritance from the past regime, but Julian, Charles Harris, even to an extent, even Matthew Betts maybe a little bit. A guy that can drop into coverage, who can rush the pass and set the edge a little bit. I know he's a little undersized, so he's not going to be great at setting the edge in terms of being a true edge defender. But he's a really fascinating guy, and I think he would be a kind of natural fit in what the Lions want to do with this defense. But like if you're looking for the elite pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson, he's not that guy.
No, I like the Van Ginkel idea though. That was one that I had on my mind. If you wanted to, it'd be probably a tick up or two in terms of price, but not near the top. Zadarius Smith, that would be a vet. Would add some serious juice to your pass rush. He can do a bunch. Like I know, he has had some plays against the Lions over the years that I'd like to forget. So yeah, that'd be one. And then, I'm like Brandon Graham as a free agent. Technically, it'd be fun for him to come home, but I don't see him playing anywhere other than Philly.
Right. Those lifers in Philly, man, it's hard to pry them away.
Be a cool story though. He's from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That you got the Van Ginkel one is kind of one that popped just because of what you said, Jeremy. He has a lot of versatility, and it would just make Aaron Glenn's defense that much more multiple and capable of doing different things.
I feel like we have to talk at least a little bit about Danico Autry. Obviously, it comes from Tennessee, and so everyone's kind of making the connection there with the Lions' new defensive line coach. He's going to be 34 this year, so you're probably signing him on a 1-year, relatively small deal, but Autry, I'm sure, would have all of the possible motivation to come here. They blew things up in Tennessee, so it's not going to be the same as when he's been there before. You got your defensive line coach, and yes, we're going to say it again, the Lions are a Super Bowl contender, so he gets an opportunity to chase a ring here. But a productive, despite being 33, I'm trying to remember how many sacks he had last year, but it was a significant amount. I think it was like 6.5, 7. He's a guy that can still produce. He's a big dude, so he can defend the run. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think this is just like Lions fans making the easy dot connection. I think this is one that could actually happen.
Yeah, he's an interesting name. And the connection all makes sense and everything too. So I I guess it brings me to the point of, do I feel the same way about edge as I do corner, in the sense of, hey, I'm cool with Stephon Gilmore showing up for a year to hold the fort down? Would I be cool with a defensive end who's a little bit long in the tooth? I think the interesting kind of things to take into account there is, like, how much do you believe that Josh Pascal needs to take that next step?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to bring in a veteran who's going to take snaps away from him? Or do you view those guys as being able to play next to one another because you can move Josh inside? And, Danico is one of the, as mentioned by PFF, like one of the strongest, like 5 tech guys in the NFL. So,
Yeah.
do you view those guys as being positional versatile enough that they can do different things? So, Danico, though, last year, 11 and a half sacks.
11 and a half. That was way off. Yeah.
But I mean, like,
age 33.
Old man strength. Like, is that what that is?
And
like,
he's 285, so like he's a big dude. So to be able to get that many sacks, and a 285 dude on the edge is gonna set the edge, is gonna be a decent run defender. Like that seems like a pretty good scheme fit. But you bring up a good point. Do you want to take away snaps from Pascal, or if you want to frame it in a more positive way, have kind of a mentor in the room when they're with him?
Let's just say he's like, that would be a big step up, like from your Romeo Quara in like the defensive line platoon, right? Like he would feel like he would eat up some of those Romeo snaps, being able to slide inside, play the 3 tech, play the 5. And like you said, he's going to be one of the best closed ends against the run just because of how strong he is at the point of attack. So yeah, that'd be a really good one. I would like that a lot.
All right, well, we're talking a little bit about the interior defensive line, so let's move there naturally next. I would argue this is maybe the second biggest need beyond corner. The contract situation right now, Aleem McNeil signed through this year. Levi Onwuzurike signed through this year. Broderick Martin signed through 2026. Chris Smith to a futures deal. Benito Jones is a restricted free agent. Tyson Alualu, an unrestricted free agent. So not a lot of long-term signings here. Maybe Aleem McNeil gets a deal done this year. It seems like it's kind of cold on that front. Maybe that's something they revisit next offseason. So Lions have a short-term need here, a long-term need here. Where are you guys looking?
I don't know if I want to be bargain bin shopping here. I know you're cool with that, though, Jeremy, and I would understand it because they have shown an ability to get by with Benito Jones and Tyson Alualu and Isaiah Buggs. I mean, Isaiah Buggs played well enough in 2022 to convince us all that, like, he was a thing in 2023, and he wasn't.
Right.
And I feel like the Lions got by just fine without him, right? Whereas, like, coming out of 2022, I think all of us had the impression that, like, oh, like, Buggs is going to be a fixture.
Right.
Like, they want to get a guy so that they don't have to play him as much, but, like, he's definitely, Buggs just wasn't a thing.
Right.
And the run defense was one of the best in the NFL without him. So, like, it was like, oh, okay, so nothing lost, nothing gained, with Buggs not playing. It really comes down to 2 things for me. How much do they believe in Broderick Martin?
Sure.
And also, how much do they value Aleem McNeil? Like, there's part of me that thinks, like, again, well, I mean, this is the year for Aleem, right? Like, I mean, this is where you are going to earn your contract extension. I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like, it feels very much like guard, though, to me, I think. Like, I think I feel that way in terms of, like, Jonah, right? Like, unless you're getting a guy who is Chris Jones level, why not just go bargain bin shopping?
So, I mean, that leaves a tough position. Like, everyone is looking at Christian Wilkins, maybe one of the best free agents out there at any position. It's almost shocking that he didn't get the franchise tag. Do you pay someone like him and say, Aleem, like, sorry, you're going to have to ball out this year, and even if you do, we might just play the compensatory pick game with you because now we have Christian Wilkins for the next 3-4 years?
It would definitely change the conversation, like, around that whole position group, right? Like,
Right.
if you dip into, like, what are they projecting Wilkins?
$25 million a year, 4 years, $100 million per PFF.
My goodness. I mean, we're looking at a Amon-Ra St. Brown type of contract
Yeah.
right there. So yeah, that would change the conversation. And then eventually you can do it, obviously, like, you look at these other elite teams, they have big time players on the interior, the edge, like San Francisco comes to mind. But yeah, like Aleem would definitely, barring something, it would have to be the right fit. And Wilkins is a do it all. You don't have to take him off the field. Like he's worth that money. He stirs it up too. He's a pretty testy player out there, which I would like. That would kind of replace if CJ Gardner Johnson's not going to be here, your villain on the defense. But yeah, what are the odds of that though? Like if you were going to splurge, are you going to do it here? Let me ask you guys that.
Yeah, that's the question, because in general, I would say defensive tackle, not necessarily a premier position that you want to be spending more than 20 plus million a year on. But at the same time, there are a couple of those game changing dudes at the interior that if you have, you value more than almost anything because it's so rare. So I don't know. And there is something to be said about the fact that Chris Jones and Christian Wilkins are both on the market at this point, or heading towards the market. And I know literally as we're talking, Madubuike from Baltimore got a long-term monster deal. I haven't seen the full terms to it yet, but I don't know. Is there something to be said about these guys not being able to get deals done? It took into the season for the Chiefs to get Chris Jones' deal done last year, and they haven't been able to get anything done this year. Do you maybe just not splurge on defensive tackle and be like, our defensive tackles, we just want them to be run stuffers. If we get a little bit of burst from them and pass rush, that's great, but that's not who we are. We have these edge rushers that can kick inside and provide pass rush when we need it. We need to just stop the run on first and down. That's who we are.
Yeah, I don't. It's an interesting question. I mean, I wonder, is there a middle ground though? Like some other names be,
right?
Right, but I mean, like middle ground in terms of like, okay, like maybe you're not going to pay through the nose for a guy like Christian Wilkins because maybe you're not completely sold on him being a game changer who's worth $25 million a year, right? Like, what if, is there a middle of the road? And I know I'm gonna tickle Jeremy's fancy here with like DJ Reader is that a guy, or even like Grover Stewart? Like reading his PFF profile is wild, but like his on or off splits according to PFF are largely noise, but Indianapolis ranked in the top half of the NFL in expected points allowed per rush with Stewart and dead last in games without him in the lineup. So like, I don't know, like that would be a guy I think that would interest the Detroit Lions, and his contract 3 years, 33. So like $11 million is a guy like that, or DJ Readers is, around like 15.25, their projection. Like, is that a guy that you'd be willing to spend for? Cause like that, I feel like, but even then that would come at the cost of maybe Jonah Jackson.
Yeah, maybe that seems to me. I don't like the contract terms there from PFF for a 30-year-old guy who's a run stuffer to be paying $11 million a year for. I think maybe you can work that deal down ideally into single digits. But that's penny pinching. That's nitpicking. Like, he's a good enough player and a good enough fit where, I think that makes a lot of sense. He was one of the favorite guys when I was profiling defensive tackles. I was like Sheldon Rankins a lot from the Texans. Another 30-year-old. I think you can maybe get a little bit less for him, but the issue with Sheldon Rankins is his run defense grade was horrible last year. But I feel like that was kind of out of the ordinary for him. He's a big dude. He does provide, I would say, a little bit more pass rush than Grover Stewart would. And so, I don't know. I feel like, and there's also, like, he's a former Saint too, right?
Yep.
That matters. When we hear Brad Holmes say, we need to know that our external dudes are going to fit, the familiarity with a guy like Sheldon Rankins is going to play a part. And maybe they don't like Sheldon Rankins. Maybe Aaron Glenn's like, nah, he was a bad egg. I don't know. I can't give a character evaluation on Sheldon Rankins, but I do know that familiarity is going to impact who the Lions target externally. And so Sheldon Rankins, I think, is a dude just to keep an extra eye on. We want to move on?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. Well, we don't. I guess really the only thing left is safety, because we don't need to talk about linebackers. We talked corners. We talked edge. We talked defensive tackle. Safeties. Kirby, Ifatu are your starters. They're coming back. They're both under contract for 2024. Kirby's got another year beyond that. Brandon Joseph was signed to a futures deal. Tracy Walker was released. CJ Gardner Johnson, unrestricted free agency. Let's start with CJ really quick. I've been under the impression that he's not coming back because most of all, the dude is going to sign another 1-year prove-it deal. And if you want to prove it and finally cash into the deal that kid probably deserves, coming into a rotational role in Detroit is probably not the best thing for him. For the Lions, it would make sense. You bring more depth, you bring a veteran, you bring a guy that brings some of that fire that Morgan was talking about. But I don't see a reason why C.J. Gardner-Johnson would sign back here unless he just doesn't have a market, which is kind of how he came back here in the first place. So, I don't know. Do either of you guys think there's a chance at a reunion here, or you kind of already moved on mentally?
I'm with you, Jeremy. I just don't see it from his perspective, because if you're him, you want to go somewhere, you're going to have to sign another prove-it deal. It's probably going to be less than the prove-it deal you signed with the Lions last year. And you want to be on the field for the majority of the snaps so you can secure your bag next summer once that rolls around, once next year's free agency rolls around. So, no, I don't think CJ is coming back, unfortunately, and you're going to miss that fire, but I just don't think it's a fit, right? Like, what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I wish it would have worked, right? Like, I feel like but then again, had it worked out, maybe we don't get a Fatu Melifonwu coming on, fire down the stretch there and played like arguably one of the biggest roles in the Lions making the playoffs and being NFC North champs. So, but it is interesting that like this offseason now, like with all of the safeties that are getting cut, it's like, I don't know, maybe the Lions should. I don't know, why not? Like,
right?
Like, why not get crazy and go out and get Justin Simmons? You know what I mean?
Like, okay, we're jumping to that.
I don't know, like whatever. Like, let's just get talent in the door. I don't care.
Yeah, well, and there also needs to be an extended conversation about a guy like Iffy and Kirby. You're like, how sure are we that those are the guys of the future? Because Iffy had an outstanding run for 6 or 7 or 8 games or whatever it was down the stretch, but that's all that we have of him.
And we got this from Kirby this year.
And yeah, we got the up and downs with Kirby this year, and maybe that's coming around the corner for Iffy. Maybe the teams start to figure out why the Lions like Iffy and his blitzing. Like there's no guarantee Iffy is the Iffy that we saw at the end of the last season. So, I mean, there's a chance for an investment here. I'm blown away at what is happening at safety across the league, and I'm absolutely curious what it's going to do to the market. Like, we are now oversaturated with safety talent in the free agency market, but there's also a bunch of teams out there that now need a safety. So it's just like, well, demand's high and the supply is high. So what is that going to do? And you ask any draft analyst, they'll tell you the safety class sucks. So maybe that drives up prices. Maybe the fact that everyone is cutting them means they're not valuing the safety position as much. I don't know where the Lions need to go from here. I don't know where they're going to go from here. I don't know what the mark, like, this is a big question mark for me, because it's not a huge need for the Lions, but we know they love competition. I'm sure they're going to want to add a guy that's capable of starting to that room. So, like, how high of a priority is it? What tier of safety are they? Are they going for the top tier guys? Are they going for that middle tier? Is Quandre Diggs coming back? Like, what's Morgan likes the Quandre Diggs. Tell me why.
I want Quandre Diggs back, man. It's not going to break the bank. At this point in his career, like, he can still, like, if you ask around the league, you've gathered that he can still start in this league. And he fits, right? Like, would he be like thrilled if he doesn't start and Iffy and Kirby start? No, probably not. But then at the same time, like, I don't think his market's going to be really, really high, just like we talked about with all these safeties being released, and there's a ton of talent out there. Like, if you're asking teams that need a full-time starter, I'm sure they're probably going to lean like a CJ GJ over, Quandre Diggs at this stage. But for the Lions, he'd be perfect. He'd be the elder statesman in the whole defensive backs room, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think it would be a really good fit, and I'm sure he'd be thrilled, right?
Yeah,
let's do it.
He loves it here.
I love Quandre. The party store down the road from my house still has a Quandre Diggs. Like, how they have the little glass panels. Like, it's like a Steve Eiserman, a Ben Wallace, and there's a Quandre Diggs. It's still up.
Legends of Detroit.
Exactly.
Hey, why not just bring this full circle? We talked about getting the band back together with the offensive line. Deshaun Elliott is a free agent.
I didn't love seeing him go, and he had a great year in Miami.
He did. He had a
couple
really
of
good
years.
year.
2 years?
Why? Well, so in 2022, remember, like, there was just, remember like the Instagram stuff with Deshaun Elliott.
Oh right, yeah. Get me the hell out of Detroit or whatever he said.
Right, yeah. There's that with Deshaun Elliott, and then the following year at C.J. Gardner-Johnson, it's like the Lions are like inviting something into the safety room when it comes to the drama.
Yeah, I haven't really looked deep beyond all of these guys that are getting released at this free agent safety class, but I think there needs to be like a middle tier investment here, and maybe that is a Quandre Diggs. I'm very curious as to what the market is on him because of his age, but he's also like third in interceptions among all safeties since 2018. Now, of course, going back to 2018, we're talking 6 years ago, including that. So certainly not playing at the level that he was back then, but he's still, I think, a starter level talent. The name I threw out on the newsletter, and I think it's a fun name because 2 years ago we were having a conversation about this dude in a very different light. John Johnson is on the market again.
Interesting. Just the Brad Holmes ties, right? Like
Brad Holmes ties. Like he signed that big deal with Cleveland, played 2 years there, got cut before the last year of his deal, went back to LA last year, essentially had to work his way back into the starting lineup, but made it and was playing okay. To me, that's like, it's kind of a perfect fit where it's a mid-tier safety who's decent, who has a history of playing well. Like, you don't have the Aubrey Pleasant connection anymore like you did when we were first talking about re-signing him, but he's also a guy that pennies on the dollar. Like, he's not going to cost much. And to me, you view him as a safety net. Right.
And any guy that they bring in, undoubtedly you have to understand that you're getting into a competition. Right. Like that's yes. The most important thing is like you have to understand. But I think what will be attractive to guys like that, maybe like Deshaun Elliott, for example, or John Johnson, or any kind of like veteran safety that you might grab on a 1-year deal. I think what they can do now is that the Lions have established a history of no job is safe. Like, the best guy is going to be out on the field, right? And any guy who might be willing to come here and understand that it's a competition, but you might play your way into getting rewarded. Like Charles Harris, for example, was a guy. John Kaminsky was a guy, right? Like, if you're willing to embrace competition and play up to a level that earns you a contract extension, like, the Lions will have no problem doing that for you.
All right. I think we fixed the team, guys. I think we could talk special teams, but
training camp, let's go.
Okay, we're skipping the draft. Okay. Damn.
Sim the draft. Brad Holmes. Let go, let right. God.
Right? That's a good point. We don't need to talk about the draft. Y'all trust Brad Holmes way more than you trust us. So let's just submit to the process. We got free agency, Brad. You're a college scout. We got the free agency. You take care of the draft, and let's go 17-0, baby.
Perfect. Yeah, I think for the draft preview podcast, we're just going to read Brad Holmes' Wikipedia entry. We'll just read it from like top to bottom.
We'll read that. We'll read his draft history. We'll read his press conferences, and then
the transcripts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. We will have, I believe, actually, I shouldn't say this because we haven't confirmed it, but maybe the call-in show Saturday mornings. If you haven't done that, join us on Twitter Spaces. Just follow us on Twitter at Pride of Detroit. Then we're just next week is going to be a scattershot thing where we'll probably just have kind of emergency podcasts reacting to the latest signings and things. No group podcast until probably the following week. So make sure you're following us on all of our socials, all of our podcasting platforms, YouTube, Twitch, and obviously prideofdetroit.com is where you're going to get the latest news, analysis, all sorts of fun stuff. But for Morgan, for Ryan, I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you on the other side of free agency. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right, live audience. Time to talk more Fago. No. We'll talk about anything y'all want. If you have more questions, maybe guys that we didn't talk about on the podcast and you want us to talk about them, we'll try to do our best.
AZ Lions fan asked if they could draft a kicker. We hope not. Maybe like on the, day three. Day three, sure.
Day three, do whatever the hell you want. That's my
sixth round and up, actually, not just day three. I shouldn't say that. Sixth round and beyond.
I think it's interesting to at least point out, like, PFF's contract projections that we've all just been talking about and compare it to like the deal that Matabuke just got.
Yeah, what did he get?
So he got 4 years, 98 million, 75.5 total in guarantees, and 53.5 at signing.
So
Good for
almost
him.
25 a year.
So yes,
Which is-
PFF had him getting 60.25 guaranteed, and he got 75 guaranteed.
The average per year was close, but the guaranteed was way off.
Yeah,
Good though.
I
That's
mean,
nice. From a player standpoint.
That's great. Yeah.
Chris
Damn.
Jones has got to be stoked.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Thinking about what he's gonna buy for sure.
But what if, like, guys, what if next week you get the Dan Graziano notification that says, like, Lions 4-year, $120 million, Chris Jones?
Huh.
Like, I'm not going to be
I'm-
mad about it
I'm,
at all.
No,
I'm looking
no.
at flights to New Orleans. That's what I'm doing, baby.
He transcends a lot of you don't have to take him off the field. You can kick him outside. He's just a
He won
terror.
the Super Bowl for him. Like, let's
Yeah.
if
He's the
we're
best
being
player.
completely honest, like he deserves
Yeah.
serious consideration for Super Bowl MVP.
Like,
Yeah,
Aaron
I
Donald,
agree.
Chris Jones. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's like
Yeah.
right there. And Aaron Donald, for me, is like the greatest defensive player of all time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
But Chris Jones is pushing 30, isn't he?
I
Is
believe
he
he's
that old?
he's 29 and a half, so he'll be
He'll be 30 at the beginning of the year. I'm still
Yeah,
gonna be
I would do it,
excited.
though.
Don't get me wrong. It'd be insane. But I tend to think because they tagged Legarius and they're thinking about trading him that Chris
All right,
they
keep Chris
feel
Jones.
pretty confident in where they are with Chris Jones negotiations. That's
Sure.
my read on it, at least.
till Brad Holmes puts in a phone
Till
call.
Brad Holmes comes down from the rafters.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be nice.
It's weird though, like, and we talked a little bit about it on the pod, but I was just up until the combine, I was so sure that the Lions were just going to kind of take a tepid approach to free agency and get some mid-level guys, maybe get a mid to high tier cornerback. But I don't know, the things I'm hearing, man,
Good.
sounds like corner they're not going to F around.
Well, you shouldn't, right? Like, you were one of the final four last season. It was very clearly like a big weakness. Like, I love it, and don't, I hope he doesn't get crazy. But if you want to go, you want to throw, what are we going to say?
No, it's just the same thing I said before. It's like I don't love the idea of throwing draft capital at it. I just more than a fourth rounder, and so that that's. But listen, I'm Mr. Conservative. I'm Mr. Don't take a lot of chances type of guy. I'm like optimize your probability when it comes to player acquisition. So always trade down. Don't spend wildly in free agency type of guy. But I don't know. That's why I've been behind of like these mid-level trades, these JC Horns, even Marshawn Lattimore. I think I would get behind because you're not giving up big draft capital. Granted that they come with risk, and granted that the Lions have taken risky cornerback acquisitions the last few off seasons and it hasn't worked out, right? So I get the idea of like, all right, we need to stop doing these half measures and go full measure. I get it. I get the thought behind it, but I'm also like, when you're taking a bigger swing, it's also a bigger risk, and you stand to lose more. And that maybe that's just like my negative viewpoint, my glass half empty, my wet blanket viewpoint. But when you make a big swing like that, my initial thought is this you better not have just effed up.
And they tried so as much last offseason, right? Like, Brad Holmes didn't mess around when it came to cornerback, right?
No, but
Like-
they were also I would say you could argue those were two mid-tier acquisitions, right? Emmanuel Mosley came with risks. And most people were pretty darn high on Cameron Sutton, but I don't know if anyone would confuse him with a shutdown corner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that people had the expectation that he could comfortably be the team's CB1. And I feel like in an ideal world, we might be talking about him as just being a really good CB2.
Yeah, and that money kind of reflects it, right? Like 11 million a year doesn't scream like lockdown corner, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Like the question I asked on the podcast, like if you were gonna splurge, it wouldn't for me. It wouldn't be interior defense, just because. I mean, Chris Jones would be fun, but we already had that conversation. But it would be corner for me, just because there's so much projection to it. Like throw a draft pick at draft Chop Robinson, whatever you want to do. But I don't know. We were damn sure that Jeff Okudah was going to be really good. He had some of the cleanest college tape there was. People were like, "Oh, his hips are so smooth," blah blah blah, and then bam, it just so. I'd rather just go for like a known commodity at that position, to be honest. So,
and even some of the young guys though, they fall off. Like they have one or two good seasons and then they fall off a cliff, which is why again, like I'm kind of attracted towards more of those veteran dudes that have proven they can hang for 6-7 years. The Stephon Gilmores of the world, where it's just like. He's not going to be outstanding. Is he going to be a lockdown corner? No, but you're going to get solid play from him. You know he's not just going to be a huge liability out there. I know, obviously, Father Time is catching up to him, but I don't know. It's tough. This is why I can't be a general manager. I can't make decisions.
If you have Gilmore and Sutton as your starting corners, like going into the season though, with like a rookie that you like that could potentially that's a pretty good situation to be in, as long as the pass rush gets better too.
Right.
That's what I was going to say though too, Morgan. Like, what if it's Stephon Gilmore? You get a court, maybe because of Rakestraw's testing numbers, you get him in the second round, and pick 29 is a defensive end that can push a little bit, right? Like, oh, okay, now I feel a little bit more excited.
Right. Darius Robinson.
And Lions are still going to score a ton of points. Like, you just need to turn both. You don't really necessarily have to all of a sudden be the Legion of Boom or whatever. You need to turn both of those dials to the right just a little bit, and then the cumulative effect will it'll be there, right?
Dude, there's part of me that's like, why not just like take risks on guys that are super opportunistic too? Like if you can get guys who have a track record, and I know turnovers are a little bit fluky, right? Like you can't really project them from year to year, but like if you get guys that have like playmaker track records, like I think that's where you want to be with the offense that you have, right? Like if you can force turnovers,
more possessions, man. Yeah.
The more possessions for that offense, the better I feel about this football team, right? I mean, that's why we're all so comfortable with the Lions being so aggressive on fourth down, because the Lions offense is the best part of their team. Like you want that unit on the field. So there's almost part of me that would be like, you know what? Like if you can bring in some guys who are a little bit more, but that's CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? Like that they took a stab on him for two reasons. One, feeling comfortable in terms of your connection with him that you established in New Orleans, but also like that guy's a playmaker. Like he makes big splashy plays. So I mean, he gives up plays too, but like I feel like when you have the Lions offense, like you're well within your right to employ risk takers.
Yep. Yeah. It'd be nice to get some more, because I mean the safeties were turnover machines. Like I have faith in Kirby bouncing back. Like I just think he was trying to make, like when you watch the film, he was just trying to do too much just because he knew there was going to be issues back there. Like,
I mean, like the original plans went to waste right away, right? Like
early, yeah, dude. Yeah.
There was a lot of scrambling.
That's the thing too. Like I would love, because like Jerry's good. We knew this. Like Jerry's good if you're playing a lot of man. Like he's gonna draw flags too, though. As we know, he's very handsy. But like I would love to just have another veteran back there that can handle. Like, if you get Gilmore, he's gonna be able to do everything you want him to do. You want to play zone. You want to be in a cover 3 shell one week, and then you want to be man heavy the next week. He's gonna be fine. He's been there. He's done that.
Yeah.
And like you said, it would be good for whoever they end up drafting to learn from. Like learning from Cam Sutton, Gilmore, and Quandre Diggs. That'd be a nice little, let's do that. I just love Quandre, man. I don't know. I just want him back.
Someone in chat asked how much you guys think Gilmore is going to cost. I think PFF had him at either 9 or 10 million, basically the entire thing guaranteed, just a 1 year, $9 million, $10 million deal.
At a voided year, throw it like a CJ Gardner-Johnson back, like
exactly.
1 year 9 voided year, boom. We're
done. I think that's what I said exactly in my Pride Detroit Direct. It was just like, give him a 1 year, $10 million contract, make like $7 million of it a signing bonus, maybe even more. add a voided year so that $3.5 million of that $10 million cap hit is in 2025. You're good. 1 year, $6.5 million cap hit this year. You can mess around with that.
Maybe even some incentives in terms of games played and
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
his brother's still under contract, correct? Yeah, he is.
Yep. They kept him on the 53-man roster all year. Barely played him, but they kept him on the roster, and that to me that means something, right?
I hope so, because there's plenty of examples around the league like where undrafted guys or unheralded guys end up. L'Jarius Sneed was undrafted, was he not?
I think so. I think you're right.
I want to say like it's one of those positions where it happens.
Yeah. No, he was a 4th round pick.
4th. Okay. Who was undrafted out of that class? There's someone out there.
I think that's why people were so optimistic on Jerry though, right? Like Jerry Jacobs was sure. Undrafted guys pop off every once in a while. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
He did for a little there. I mean, he did a lot more than the vast majority of undrafted guys. So I always give Jerry's going to land somewhere where they're going to be like, hey, we're going to play a ton of man and he'll do fine.
Yeah, I agree. And some people will hate it. Like they hated seeing Starling Thomas succeed, but that is the thing. Like, I don't think Jerry was particularly happy here. Last year in particular. Like, I think not that like he hates the coaching staff or he was a locker, none of that. I think the Lions tried to make some changes on their defense. They played more zone early in the season, and he struggled early in the season. And then he had like that spurt where he had 3 or 4 interceptions in a matter of 2 or 3 games, and seemed like everything was bouncing back. But like, it didn't. And he had to take himself off social media for a while because he was frustrated with the blowback. And he gets benched towards the end of the year. I think it was ready. I think he was ready to move on, and I think probably so were the Lions. So it sucks, but you're right. I think there was a role for him in this league, maybe as a starter, definitely as a man coverage corner over everything else. And so maybe that's a sign that the Lions they want to be a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit more varied, because like year 1 they were like all man, like then like it just seems like they've been trying to implement more zone as they get on, and I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell with what Aaron Glenn actually wants, right? Because they've been we've talked about this all offseason. They keep changing either to match their personnel or to remain unpredictable. I don't know.
Aaron Glenn gets what Brad Holmes gives him.
Yeah,
that's right. What it seems like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Don't ask Aaron Glenn about zone coverage.
No.
He will not admit.
No, people know better now because of you, Jeremy.
Glad to take the bullets.
One of the greatest rivalries in Detroit sports right now.
Me versus Aaron Glenn?
Yeah.
He's only really shut me down twice.
I'm just kidding.
I remember towards the end of the season, I asked him something, and like at the end of the press conference, he's like, everyone's like, "You got one, dude. Good job. Like you got an answer."
He's tough on everybody too, though. That's the thing. It's not like it's just you at all. Like,
there's a running theory, and I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast before, during a break before, that after losses, he's great. After wins, he's bad. He's like way more confrontational after wins, which seems counterintuitive. But I think the theory is that like he's the type of guy that doesn't want to be told that he's doing a good job. Right? Okay. Like he's the kind of guy where it's just like, no, like we always need to be better.
Oh, yeah, like congratulations begets like complacency, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. He's old school. I could see that.
Is Tre'Davious White a bridge too far?
No.
Like, are you only allowed one of those guys, and like the Lions like met their quota by re-signing Emmanuel Mosley? Like,
that's a real hard one, man. Because when did he have the Achilles tear? How early in the season?
It was early in 2023. Like there would, I mean, like you're talking like Jeff Okudah or Tracy Walker.
But the thing is, Mosley has never been the best corner in the league. Mosley has had the potential of being an up and rising guy who could be a top 20 player at his position. Tre'Davious was at the top of the mountain for a year or two.
For a while. Yeah, for
He
a little
was.
bit there. Yeah.
Tore his ACL and tore his Achilles in 2 of the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough sell. To me, Achilles is a tough sell because I really don't think you're going to be the level you are until 2025. Like, he'll play in 2024. I don't think he's going to be the guy that the Lions need him to be until 2025.
And
That's
even
fair.
beyond that, like look at Tracy, like the long-term ramifications, man. It's probably the worst thing that can happen injury-wise, like to the in the current era of like medical technology, right? Like Achilles is still terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Okuda's another example, right? Who knows what his career would have been like?
It's a big tendon. That's all I ever
I mean,
think of.
like everything for him though, right? Like core surgery, Matt Patricia. Like there are a lot of things that were in his way.
His
But-
head.
You know me, I'm a big Jeff Okuda guy.
Yeah, you and me both.
Speaking of Matt Patricia, 100 bits from Nick the Greek. Let's see where this one goes. Matt Patricia has been given the green light to star on a Travel Channel show where he drives an RV around the country and samples the most popular nacho cheese products in America, and also shows the audience how it's produced. In the opening credits, you see him fall into an industrial size vat of nacho cheese and scream with joy. He's kind of like the Antichrist Guy Fieri. That was a good one.
He loves the nacho cheese bit with Matt Patricia lately.
Nick's brain, man.
Nick, he also donated 1 bit because I just gave you that one. I'm not going to bother reading that one. And then Frank C. Wells Jr. over on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing over on YouTube.
Puma wants to know though, since Tre'Davious tore his Achilles in London, does the time zone make a difference?
Obviously.
Is the recovery rate different? How does that exchange?
Like,
Is
is
he-
he getting an extra day?
Will his recovery take 6 less hours?
Yeah.
Basically time traveling. It's a time traveling thing.
Yeah, Quara had an Achilles tear too. That was a string of that's the thing that I think goes
Him and
undersaid.
Okuda, were they back to back?
They were the same season, right?
Right. Was it back to back games though?
Maybe I think maybe, but
It
like,
was within. They were both within the first month of the season.
I think just like considering that this team inherited Okuda, he gets an Achilles. They signed Tracy Walker to a big extension. He gets an Achilles. They signed Romeo. Did they sign Romeo? No, I don't think they signed him.
That was one of Brad's first deals.
Oh, you're right. He gets an Achilles. Like, this team was put behind the 8 ball with the most serious injury in football right away, right out of the damn gate in some of their most invested players.
all defensive players.
Yeah. Well, and that's how we got to today, where this team has been 31st, 32nd, and 24th or whatever in defense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad luck.
It's extreme bad luck. Extreme bad luck. Like the only,
But like extreme good luck on offense.
I
when
guess.
it comes to injuries.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
knocked on wood.
I still haven't written about it, but I admitted during the midweek mailbag that I owe a little bit of a mea culpa when I said that the Lions I thought were one of the most healthy teams in football last year. Turns out by adjusted games lost, which dropped this year, they were actually 18th. So slightly below average in health. But offense, I think offense is going to grade out much better than defense. I haven't seen if they've dropped the offense-defense splits yet.
Does James Houston skew those numbers? Sorry, Morgan.
No, you're good. I was going to say something
James
stupid.
Houston,
Just
C.J.
don't watch
Gardner-Johnson.
Don't watch that Mea Culpa movie on Netflix. It was really bad.
I didn't know that was even a movie.
I watched it because Kelly Rowland was in it, and I'm a simple man. I like Kelly Rowland.
Okay.
And then, you know.
I guess for me is like how do they weigh adjusted games lost? Because like Vitae, right? Like Vitae done for the season. You know what I
Right.
mean? But like Vitae, James Houston, it's like the fall off from James Houston to the next player is what? You know what I mean? Or the fall off from Vitae to the next player is Graham Glasgow. That almost seems like a little bit of an upgrade.
That was kind of the rationalizing I made, because like even a guy, well, Emmanuel Mosley is a bad example, but also Emmanuel Mosley was not guaranteed to be the starter, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Definitely thought he could have been.
Right.
Well, that was the plan, right? That's why they didn't, Yeah.
I think that was Emmanuel Mosley's plan too.
I felt bad for him. I remember when we were like sitting there watching that game because I was at home, and my buddy that, we have a good view of the sideline and everything. And he was like, dude, I think that was non-contact. And I was like, stop it. He's like, no, I'm serious. And then
Was it 2 snaps?
yeah, 2 or 4, something stupid. And I was like, no way, man. Oh,
It's terrible.
yeah, that was sad. That was sad.
So they've dropped the position specific adjusted games lost and defensive backs. It looks like the Lions were second in most with Emmanuel.
CJ and Emmanuel.
Yeah. So the 35 total. Emmanuel Mosley was 15.5 adjusted games lost. Chauncey Gardner was 14.3. And so those two alone made up almost more than all but 5 teams. Yeah, 35. Holy cow. So 35 out of their total 66 adjusted games lost came from the defensive backs.
Checks out, though.
Offensive line had 13, so Vaitai must have taken a big hit there as well. Anyways.
Meh.
I think I'm about to slag, guys. I hear my food's here.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh.
Excited. Some Detroit shipping.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yes.
All right, we'll let you
But-
go. We'll probably be heading out here shortly as well. It feels weird to get out of here by 7.
Really?
We still
Oh,
have
yeah.
still have an evening now, Ryan. We can do
Yeah.
stuff.
I have like a whole night ahead of me, which means I'll be asleep by 9:30.
Such is life of being old.
Yeah.
Put on a movie.
Appreciate you guys,
Don't
though.
make it out of the first act. All right,
Yeah.
later, buddy.
See you, Morgan.
Later, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you.
You too, bud.
You too.
Oh, I didn't time that well. Morgan didn't leave quick enough. Let me think a couple more people here. We'll maybe answer one more question. Yes, which I'll pull that up. I need to pull. My computer's been acting extremely slow lately, so I haven't been pulling up a lot of tabs during the shows. JC Paxton, thank you for the 24 months, 2 years subscribed to the channel, and Big Al, 42 months, says, wow, 42 months seems like just yesterday. What's 42 months? What's the math on that? 3.5 years?
Something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Nailed
You
it.
got it. You got it.
My math is back. I got 30 more minutes. Can y'all stay that much longer? Probably not, but we'll stay a little bit longer. 30 more.
I think I got like 10 in me.
Okay, we'll do 10 minutes. We'll get you to 6:50 Eastern time. So if you want to still talk, you better start throwing some good conversation topics in the chat.
If you wanna redeem Listcast, if you wanna ask questions.
All that. You guys just want to relax too? It's fine too. Talk about the new season of Fortnite that didn't drop, or maybe it has now.
What?
The first reported signing for the Lions on Monday.
Would that be re-signing?
I mean, it could be, but I think the idea is more like that's
Oh.
when tampering opens up. And someone's asking when the timeline of everything. So the negotiating period is noon Eastern on Monday. So if you don't know what that means, it's basically anyone who is about to be a free agent can start negotiating with other teams through their agents. They can't talk directly to teams unless they are their own agent, and they can agree to terms at that point. So you might hear contract terms, you might hear actual signings, but they can't become official until the new league year, which is 4 p.m. on Wednesday. That's when all the signings, all the trades become official. So, like, the Lions could even agree to a trade before then. They could theoretically I think, agree to a trade now. Yeah, of course they could. But it can't be official until next year, until Wednesday at 4 p.m. So you want to call your shot? Last year, I believe it was Cam Sutton.
Was that you?
No. I'm saying Cam Sutton was the first.
Oh yeah.
Announced signing, quote unquote signing.
Excuse me, Daniil Hunter.
Shut up.
Let's go.
Shut up.
Woo. Do you think it'd be something big like that, or would it be like Danico Autry?
I mean, Danico Autry would make sense as the first one. Is like, yeah, of course I'll come and play for a championship level team, and my former defensive line coach. That's not a bad answer. I was kind of thinking Gilmore for kind of the same reasons. Like, yeah, of course. At this point in my career, I'll go join my brother and try to win a championship.
Yeah, like, but do you view like those veteran guys as like another name that we didn't bring up, but like he's forever old, like Calais Campbell, right? Like the Lions had interest in Calais Campbell last year.
Yeah, he's 38.
But like, I know, but it's like, do those veteran guys just kind of like
they wait it out?
I'll wait.
Yeah,
like, don't worry.
That's a good point.
Like,
Yeah, those might be not just day 2 guys; those might be wave 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah. So yeah, Chris Jones.
Monday.
4 years, 130 million.
Chris Jones and Daniil Hunter come out like 10 minutes apart. 10 minutes apart.
Oh my gosh! If the Lions signed Daniil Hunter and Chris Jones, like, would you wonder what Brad Holmes like was doing in the time leading up to those signings?
Yeah. Does he have a cocaine problem?
Is there a substance abuse problem?
I'm on tomorrow. I was kind of thinking it would come today. I didn't go through the process of pre-writing like I should have, but I and this is not inside source type thing where it's just like, I don't know, drop it on a Friday, make Lions fans feel good going into the weekend. I am a little concerned that I'm about to lose my weekend though. Like, there's been no news on Graham. There's been no news on Amon-Ra. There's been no news on Jared. There's been no news on
Jonah.
Does
Jonah get signed on Monday by another team?
That's a good question.
Is Jonah like a day one guard?
I think Jonah's going to feel out his market a little bit. I think he'll find a home on Tuesday.
I can see that. I also asked the question because Dotson, right? Like Dotson is a domino that falls early.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, does that accelerate Jonah Jackson knowing what his market is? Kind of like with Madubuike, right? It's like, oh, now Christian Wilkins knows how much he's worth.
Yeah. Where does Cousins land? I don't know. I mean, I tend to agree with maybe some of the rumors, that the Atlanta rumors. Like, it makes sense, kind of.
That he's been talking to Kyle Pitts about the number 8 jersey?
No, that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't do if I was Atlanta, because to me that feels like it sounds weird to say, like a one move away type of team. Like, they're not going to win a Super Bowl while Kirk Cousins is there. They're not close enough.
They definitely win the NFC South.
Sure. I guess. Depends on what your opinion of Baker Mayfield is, assuming he comes back to the Bucs.
No more Dave Canales. He's going to help out another short quarterback.
I don't know where Justin Fields is going. I've been say what you will about Benjamin Albright, but generally he's pretty tuned in.
Yeah.
And he's been saying for like the past 3 days, like, there is no market for Justin Fields. None. He's going to be a backup somewhere is kind of what it sounds like he's saying. He hasn't outright said that, but like that almost seems to be what he's implying. And I'm like, whoa, that seems a little crazy to me. I think there's still some salvaging of Justin Fields that's possible. I don't think he's a bad quarterback.
I was going to ask you, if you're Atlanta, would you want Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins?
I'd rather Justin Fields.
think so too. At the beginning of last year, would you have said Kirk Cousins or would you have said Justin Fields?
I would have said Kirk Cousins.
I probably would have too. Did you see the video of Kirk Cousins playing with his kids?
No.
And Kirk Cousins is on all four, and they're just kind of like roughhousing, and then one of his sons like comes up from behind and gets on top of him, and then like tries to like push off his Achilles, and like you hear Kirk go, "Not my Achilles."
Jeez. Taking Cousins, yeah. To me, it's more just a long term versus short term thing. If I was Atlanta, because like you signed Kirk Cousins, what again for 2 more years, maybe 3.
Yeah, maybe hardly a season because
right because he's coming off an Achilles.
Yeah,
and so
I think it's worth rolling the dice with Fields, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Like you get
like Atlanta, you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
you're not one piece away, like you just said.
Right. And so you play. This is Fields' last year on his deal. Is it a 5th year option? I don't know.
No, it's the same draft as Sewell.
Okay. So you do have a 5th year option.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is why I'm glad I'm not in Atlanta's situation because they're. I don't know. They're not in a good situation at all, and I don't know their roster that well either, but. Do you feel like Russ is going to Pittsburgh? I mean, we know he's there. We've had about 300 tweets today about it from every single NFL national writer.
Well established. Did you see the Mac Jones stuff?
No.
He's being shopped. Which shocker for the team with the 3rd overall pick.
So, what are they expecting in return for Mac Jones?
If there's not a market for Justin Fields, what's the market like for Mac Jones?
They're going to start calling him Big Mac Jones because that's all you can get in return for him.
Oh, poor Mac Jones.
Odds the team that lands Kirk Cousins says we like that on their social media page. 97%?
Seems low.
And the picture is him with chains on? And grill in his teeth?
Stop. I don't want to think about it anymore. I like Mick Spearman's comment. Steelers country, let's steal.
I get it. But shouldn't it be STEL?
Maybe. I think so.
Like, if that would be better if Russell Wilson was a corner. Like, let's steal the ball.
That would make a lot more sense. But also, as JT Sam points out, is the 2021 class hashtag actually not good?
Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields.
Like, those guys are all being shopped, but remember the other names?
Mm-mm.
Trey Lance.
Oh, Jesus.
And Trevor Lawrence, which, like, even people are kind of like...
They're starting
Trevor
to
Lawrence?
sour on him a little bit, which is, like, I think it's premature, but...
I think it might be premature, but also last year you had Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne and...
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You lost the AFC South.
It's okay, though, guys. Next year's draft class is going to be great. Just perpetually. Like, that was supposed to be one of the best, right? How many went in the top 20?
10? Well, yeah.
Like 5? 6?
5, right? Because it was T-Law and Zach Wilson and Trey Lance and Fields and Mac Jones. So there were 5, like, in the top.
Is that top 10?
Fields. No, because I think Fields was Fields like 12 or something.
Maybe. That's again. It's why I think not. I don't necessarily think the Bears are making a mistake, but I think they're taking the riskier route by not trading out of one and shipping Fields because it has. I got nothing against the USC guy. I'm just saying, quarterback classes are never what they seem. Never. Someone is either going to be a huge surprise in the positive or a huge surprise in the negative.
Yep. That's true. Although I know people are saying that next year's quarterback class is bad.
They are. Yeah, it's the 1 year where it's the opposite.
But that's using to hype up this year, right? Like, and
Right.
it's almost because that's what happened in 2021, right? Where it's like, oh, you better get your quarterback because next year it's
Right.
Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and all these like unknown guys.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett's a bust.
But I think the point to be made is not. Well, the point to be made is just, first of all, don't judge next year's draft class ever when it comes to quarterbacks, because the outlook is always going to change. And secondly, don't even act like you have this year's draft class figured out when it comes to quarterback. It's the hardest position to scout.
Yep.
And a wise man once said, it's a lot easier to get worse at quarterback than better. So, good luck, Chicago Bears, because you don't have a history of getting better at quarterback.
You don't have a history at quarterback at all.
I don't know. I mean, Jay Cutler was all right. In retrospect, he's a Chicago Bears Hall of Famer.
He's the best quarterback they've ever had, right?
Jim McMahon, they would say. You want a Super Bowl?
Okay. All right. We're doing that game.
QB wins, baby. We're over our 10 minutes.
It was like somebody I saw the other day. Like, it was a Cowboys fan page, too. And they're like, you know who the most overrated quarterback is of all time? Troy Aikman.
Ooh, spicy.
But I mean, like, they had never an All-Pro, never won an MVP.
All-Pro's tough.
He only had one season where he threw 20 or more touchdown passes.
That's kind of crazy. Even adjusting for era.
Yes. But I mean, like, because there were guys like an era before him in like Marino.
Yeah.
And well, I guess like same era, but
era.
like Marino and Elway, and you know what I mean? Like,
there was someone out there on Twitter, a Lions fan, who was like, the Lions could have 10 All-Pros next year. And they're like, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, Brian Branch.
I wish it would work out that way.
Jared Goff. And I'm like, wait, what was that last one?
Wait.
And I'm like, listen, Jared Goff's a great quarterback. You have to realize All-Pro means best in the league. Best in the league. You have to beat out Patrick Mahomes. You have to beat out Josh Allen. You have to beat out all these ridiculous quarterbacks.
What would Goff have to do though? Because like, not only is he fighting like statistics, like, but he's also fighting narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, like 5,050 touchdowns.
I mean, at least 40.
At least.
But 40 touchdowns is not like, did anyone throw 40 touchdowns last year? No one threw 50, obviously. I feel like touchdown numbers were generally down in passing. And the problem with that too, for obviously the Lions, is that they run the ball a ton. When they get in the red zone, they just want to like pound the ball in. He's never going to get that. No one threw
Dak
for 40.
Prescott,
Yeah.
36. You know what I don't like? Jordan Love, 32. Second in the NFL.
They don't have a run game. That's not true. But they did miss Aaron Jones a lot. I mean, yeah, he has to be top 3 in passer rating, which I don't think he's accomplished. Maybe ever. Certainly not as a Lion. They have to win the division. He has to throw for 4,000 and change and probably 40 touchdowns. He threw for 4,530 this year.
Yeah.
But, God, I mean, listen. I've underrated Goff for probably my entire life. But that man is not getting All-Pro. I'm sorry. he'd have to show a level that he's never come close to.
Oh, it's I mean, like, it's really, really hard. Like, it took the perfect season for Matt Ryan to crack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Matt Ryan had 1 year where it was like, okay, that's magical. You're never doing that again, bud. But like, that's what it would take for Jared Goff. Lions Blood wants to know the thoughts on the Red Wings trade deadline moves or lack thereof.
They didn't make any, did they?
They made one deal, but it was really like a salary cap kind of move. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Vibes aren't great right now.
Ryan has had all the optimism sucked out of him in the past 3 weeks, past 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying the season's over by any means, right? But like, losing Larkin really sucks, and I know that their schedule isn't so tough over these next like week and a half while he's on the shelf, but I listened to, like, on the way into school here to do the podcast, which is awesome. Yzerman was available immediately after the trade deadline for media availability.
That's cool.
Like, man, I love that. Like,
yeah, because he wasn't doing
like,
anything all day.
right. Like, not busy at all. But like, remember how like us as Lions fans, like, we like lucked into Brad Holmes, right?
Right.
Like with the Donovan Peoples-Jones stuff.
Yep.
But like actually sitting down for a press conference right after the trade deadline, like, seems like, man, no NFL GM would ever do that.
Yeah, it's true.
What
do you say?
But I thought the interesting thing he said was like, we like the group that we have right now, and we like want to see like where this takes us. And it's like, okay, that's totally fine. Because like, I feel like in the NHL, like there's almost a formula, kind of like there's almost a formula in football, right? Like, obviously having a quarterback is the cheat code. Like, you have the franchise quarterback and you're already in a great spot. But like with NHL teams, it seems like the modern formula is you have to have two top flight centers, a goalie that's not going to lose you a playoff series, and at least a defenseman who plays like over 20 minutes a game.
Right.
And is like awesome. So like, the Red Wings are missing like a lot of that stuff. Like, Sider's great, like, don't get me wrong, but like, they need somebody to pair with Sider. Like, Wallman's fun. He does the gritty when he scores goals. It's cool. It's cute. But like, they just need to get so much better on the back end. And like, I didn't view there to be a way that the Red Wings were going to be able to address like all the things they needed to become like a contender to make noise in the playoffs. Like, they're fun right now. I mean, outside of the past 2 games, but like the way they lost to Colorado, and especially the way they lost to Florida, where it's like, I don't know if you watched the Florida game, but like,
I did. And I watched the Colorado game, and up until I think when Colorado took the lead 3-2, I'm like, I can sense where this is going. It's late. The Wings were probably lucky to ever be even leading in this game. I'm just going to go to bed and see what the score is when I wake up. And then I'm like, yep, nailed that one. 7-2.
Didn't it kind of it kind of even felt that way too, though, with after the first period of Florida and Detroit, where it's like, ooh, Detroit probably should be losing, but like, you know, they've stuck it out, and then like 60 minutes later it's like, ooh, or like 40 minutes later it's like, oh yeah, that's the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They played that way.
Yeah.
And they got way better. Like, that was the other thing too, is like some of those teams, like the Rangers made big moves today and over the course of the past week, and Florida made huge moves. Like those 2 teams are like wagons, and it's like, you're not going to compete. And then the Canes, Carolina made a huge trade. They got Jake Gensel from the Penguins, who, that's like a wild scene too, because the Penguins kind of went all in this year. Like, they got Erik Karlsson, and it was like, okay, like, this is the Penguins' last push, and then they trade Gensel, who's like one of their top line guys who plays with Crosby, and like, they got pumped last night 6-0, and like in the locker room afterwards, they were like talking to Sidney Crosby, and he was just like very like short on comments. He's like,
trouble in paradise.
Yep. So I mean, like, the top 3 teams I view in the East like got way better. And it's like, well, they were already way better than you. So it's like, why be buyers at the deadline? They're like the 2022 Detroit Lions.
Okay. You made me happier.
Okay, good.
So why didn't they trade away TJ Hawkinson?
I actually kind of felt like after some of those other teams made deals, like what, like trade like some of the valuable assets you have today.
You're out on the Wings. Listen, I feel like every time I see you tweet or Slack about the Wings, you're just like, oh great, they're gonna be buyers. Oh great. I hope all the bandwagon Lions fan or Red Wings fans saw what just happened.
Jeremy, there were people that are on Sports Talk Radio that were saying that the Wings were going to make noise in the playoffs. I'm like, guys, you've not been watching this
Define
team
noise.
like shooting the puck against the boards. That's noise.
That makes noise.
It does make noise.
The goal horn makes noise too.
The Wings make the playoff. Like right now, if the playoffs were to start, they'd play the Rangers.
Yeah.
If they won a game, I would be like,
come on,
cool, man.
It's
Sweet.
hockey. You can.
It is.
8 seeds win all the time. Although it's not even 8
Panthers
seeds
made it
anymore.
all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Like isn't there's like not even 8 seeds anymore? It's like
There are. That's the NBA.
I thought. Oh, whatever. I don't.
Oh, like you mean the way that it's like
see-
1 through 3,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
It's dumb. Go back to 1 through 8. Make it less complicated. Anyways,
I did real quick. I did see. I forget which women's professional league is doing this, but like they have like a really cool way to like combat tanking. Is like, and I'm totally blanking on like the particulars of it, but there's like a certain point in the season where like your record from that point earns you, like if you win the most games like after this point, like once you've been like eliminated kind of thing, like those wins count towards you being the number one pick. Like if you win the most games, then you become the number one
so
pick.
the better teams after you've essentially been eliminated gets the better picks.
Yeah, like the team who like sucks all the way to the end, like they are not getting rewarded for sucking all the way to the end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think about that.
Somebody used like an NFL scenario as like context, and I think it might have been the Jets. Whereas like the Jets went like, I think like the Jets went 2-1 or something down the stretch, but like they ended up with a worse draft pick than the Patriots because the Patriots lost all their games. But like in that scenario with like this women's league, like the Jets would have had a higher pick than the Patriots.
I feel like this
Where
would
it's
have
like-
also given the Chicago Bears a better pick, so I hate it.
Chicago Bears are getting better picks because they're getting lucky on trades. I don't want them to get lucky again. That's why I want them to draft
Yeah.
Caleb Williams.
There you go. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Most specifically because How Now Brown Cow is home. They've finished their commute home. When we said we were probably not going to make it the full 20 minutes, it's now 25 minutes later.
I lost track of time.
But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. I do have to confirm with you and Eric if we're gonna do the call-in show tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe not. If not, just expect kind of intermittent podcasts as the news comes in next week for free agency. But until then, I think it's time to get out of here.
Okay.
All right, y'all. We'll see you. We'll see you when you see you, I guess.